Alrighty, welcome back to another thrilling installment of Free Read Fridays. I'm your intrepid narrator, Fraggeth, and this week we'll be reading more of The Nightland by William Hope Hodgson. You remember to turn off that. Very good. I'm so smart. So where we left our boy, when we last saw our man's, he was, he had just gotten through this great and mighty gorge, which was pretty well lit, had forests and trees and the remains of a flying machine on a rock, and ultimately, after he gets through this area, he, well, actually, that's the area preceding the gorge, but after he gets through the gorge, which is right after that, he wanders a while and gets to like this lake of fire, and is like, well, geez, how do I proceed from here? And then he gets the clever idea to do a quick look around, just a quick turning around, seeing what he can see from where he's at. And silhouetted against the lake of fire, he's able to see, or lit up by the lake of fire, I can't remember which, he's able to see the Lesser Pyramid, the Lesser Redoubt that Naani and her people live in, and have lived in for however long they've been around there, a very long time. So when we last saw him, he was setting forth to go that way and see if he can find her there. Chapter 10. The Maid of the Olden Days. Now, as you shall perceive, all mine utter despair was turned in a moment into an huge gladness and a great hope, so that it did seem to me that I should be with my dear one in but a little while. Yet was this an over-hope and expectation, and was not like to have a swift satisfying, for truly I was made aware of naught, save that I did perceive the shape of a great pyramid, going upward into the night. And I knew that the pyramid did surely stand upon an hill in the midst of that dark country, for only so it might show so great and high. And I set me to run swift downward into the land, so that I should make a strong going unto the pyramid. And I ran for a few little minutes, and lo, I fell headlong, and did truly feel as that I had brake my neck with the hardness and pain of my fall. And I had no power to go forward any more for a great while, but did just be there where I did fall, and very helpless and moaning a little, so that any creature had been able to slay me, if that it had come upon me in that time. Yet presently I was able to sit upon the earth, and did hold my neck with my hands, and afterward the pain went away, so that I gat once more to my feet. But now I went forward very wisely, and had, moreover, an anxiousness in my heart. For, indeed, how did it be that the pyramid was so utter dark, if that it did be the lesser refuge, in truth?
And immediately there did rise in me a fear that it should be some house of evil in the dark of that land, or some wicked force working a pretense and a bewilderment upon my sight. Yet truly the thing was plain now against the far-off fires of the land, and I did have little thought, but that it should be, in verity, the lesser refuge. Now in the first moment that I did perceive the dark pyramid, I had been without wit, save to run very quick and blind unto the place. For you to remember how long I had made so great a search. And afterward I had been minded to call unto Naani with my brain elements, sending the master word, and my speech after to tell how that I was come unto her. But now I did heed to have caution, and to discover what this darkness should truly mean. And so did I go downward again into the night of that land, at the first with a carefulness, but presently with a fierce eagerness and expecting of the heart, the which had been dulled a little time with the horrid shaking and pain of my fall. Now I had climbed unto the upper plain of the great volcano in, maybe, 13 hours, but I went downward of that great hill in 10, and had made a greater speed, but that I was sore shaken and unsure by reason of my fall. Oh, thanks for tuning in, Frank Misers. And in the end of the 10th hour I perceived that I was come again to the great plain of the land, and I had no more any proper sight of the refuge, because that it was upward afar in the darkness of the night. Yet was I abled now to see that there went a bulk between me and the far shinings, and did know that this great thing was surely the hill on which the pyramid did stand. And I went 4 hours across the land, and did pass in this place and that fire-holes that made a little red shining in the night. And because of the fires in those far parts and anear, there was not an utter dark. And when I was gone 4 hours towards the pyramid, I could no more see the distant shinings, for the bulk of the hill bottom stood up between, and made all a blackness that way. And by this thing I did guess that I was come nigh unto the hill, but yet was a great hour more before that I came to it. And in that 5 hours, since I was come down from the great volcano, there had passed me thrice and again the sounds of things running in the night, and once there did be a sound as of a giant roaring afar, and a strange and horrid screaming. Now I began to go up the hill, and at the first an utter excitement took me in the heart, so that I could have shouted the name of the maid aloud in the night, with vain hopings that she should hear me and make an answer. But this state went from me very swift, as I did go upward, and there came a caution again about me, and a coldness of fear, as that my spirit did wot of something that my heart did not perceive. And presently I was come upward almost to the top of the hill, the which took me nigh 3 hours. And surely, when I was come that I could see the grimness of the pyramid, going upward very desolate and silent into the night, lo, an utter shaking fear did take me, for the sweet cunning of my spirit did know that there abode no human in all that great and dark bulk, but that there did await me there monstrous and horrid things that should bring destruction upon my soul. And I went downward of the hill very quiet in the darkness, and so in the end away from that place. And I was 4 great hours before that I was come clear away from the hill, and I did feel that there was not any safety for my spirit in all that land. And surely I went a little blindly in the first, and did go with no heed unto my way. And presently I was upon the shore of the olden sea, and had no knowing how that I was come there, for surely I did think it to be a great way off. But now I do think that the dry bed of the sea did curve around unto that place, or that there did be 2 or more olden seas in that country of night. Now, presently, I sat me down, very weak and bewildered, for it was as that my heart did lie dead within me. And in verity you shall perceive how this thing was, for I did know by the tellings of my spirit that there abode evil things in the dark pyramid upon the hill, and I doubted not but that destruction had come upon the peoples of the lesser pyramid, and that evil creatures and powers did now abide in that place. And if this thing did truly be so, I was come over late to the saving of the maid, and with this thought I was very glad that some evil thing should come, that I should fight with it, and die quickly, for there was naught then in all the world to make me glad to have life. And so shall you know the utter desolation that was in my heart, and truly I can perceive both the wiseness and the unwisdom of my reasonings. For indeed I did have no sure knowing that the dark pyramid did be truly the lesser refuge. But yet, in verity, my spirit did know with a certain sureness, and there was no doubt concerning this thing in all my being. And after that I had sat there a while, I did mind me suddenly that I should send the master word through the night, for indeed how else might I ever know whether Naani did yet live? Though, in truth, I had little, save desperate hope in this matter, but yet did remember how that I had seemed odd times of my journey to hear the beat of the master word with my spirit, out of all the dark of the world. And in verity, if Naani answered not to the word, but there came instead an evil power to destroy me, I should but cease me of mine utter heartache. And I stood me upon my feet, and looked outward about me into the blackness of that land. And I sent the master word with my brain elements, and immediately I called Naani thrice, sending my call with my brain elements. And lo, in a moment, as it did seem, there broke around me out of all the mystery of night, low and solemn, the master word, beating in the night. And immediately there did sound within my brain a far, small voice, very lone and faint, as that it had come from the end of the world. And the voice was the voice of Naani, and the voice of Mirdath, and did call me by mine olden love-name. Then indeed I did near to choke with the utter affright of joy that did take me in the heart, and also I was shaken with a mighty excitement, and my despair was gone as that I had never known it. For in verity Naani did live, and did call unto me with her brain elements, and surely I had not heard the voice of mine own for an utter age of grim labour and dread. And the voice was, as I did say, as that it came from one that did be in a far place of the earth. And in verity, whilst I stood dazed with a great joy that the maid did live, I knew within me concerning the fear that she was utter far off, and what peril might come anigh to her, before that I should stand to her side, to do battle for her life and well-being and mine own joy. And lo, in the same moment, and before that I made further speech unto Naani, I did wot that someone did be a little way off from me, in the bushes, where a fire-hole did burn anigh to me, and it was as that my spirit knew this thing, and told of it unto my brain. And I made no answer unto the maid, across all the dark of the world, but went very swift into a great bush that was nigh to the fire-hole, upon this side. And I looked through into the open space that did be about the fire-hole. And there was a little figure that did kneel, sobbing upon the earth, beside the fire-hole, and truly it was a slim maid, and she did seem as that she harked very desperate, even whilst yet she did sob. And surely mine own soul did know, all in one white moment of life. And she there, unknowing, and harking unto a cry of the spirit, that she did think to come through all the desolation of the night, even from the mighty pyramid. For oft, as I did perceive, had she cried unto me in all that lonesome month, and known no answer, neither that I was making a desperate way unto her, for indeed her weakness was great, so that she had no power to throw the word strongly afar, neither to make plain her spiritual cryings through any mighty space of the ether. And lo, I drew in my breath and set my teeth a moment to steady my lips, and I said, Mirdath, out of the bush where I did be, and using the natural human speech. And the maid ceased from her weeping, and looked this way and that, with an utter new fear, and with a frightened hope that did shine with her tears in the light from the fire-hole. And I divided the bush before me, and went through the bush, so that I came out before her, and did be there in my grey armour. And I did pause then, and was all adrift in myself, for my heart said that I should take this maid into mine arms again, for that I was come again to be with Mirdath after an utter lost eternity. But yet was I all paused, for truly she was Naani, and she was Mirdath, and she did be a stranger in mine eyes, and very dainty, and pretty, and shaken with woe, and sore trouble, and grief. And in that same moment of my coming unto her out of the bush, she screamed and fell back from me, and strove weakly to gain unto the hither bushes, for truly she knew not what was come upon her in that first little moment. And immediately she saw that it did be an human man, and no monster to slay her. And in that instant I said the master word unto her aloud, that she should have knowledge of peace and help. And I told my name, and said I am that one. And she knew this thing, even as my lips made the sounds. And she cried out something in an utter broke voice, and ran unto me, and thrust her 2 small hands into my charge and keeping, and fell thence into a great sobbing and shaking, so that I was all in trouble to ease her, but did keep a silence, and held fast her hands, for I had not on mine armoured gloves. And she leaned against me, very weak, and seeming wondrous like to a child. And lo, in a while she ceased to sob, and did but catch her breath this time and that, but said no word. And I bethought me that she did suffer for hunger, for I perceived that she had been long wandering and alone, and was come unto the end of hope, when that I did come. And the maid stood there yet silent, for she might not yet command her mouth to speak. And she trembled as she stood. And I opened my left hand, and looked at the hand within my palm, and surely it was utter thin and wasted. And I made no more pause, but lifted mine own, and set her easy upon the earth, with an hump of smooth rock unto her back. And I stripped off my cloak very quick, and put it about her, for she was scarce covered with her clothes that had been all torn among the bushes, so that part she took with an utter chill, and part because of weakness, for she was nigh to be starved unto her death, and destroyed with her grief and lonesomeness. And I took from my pack the scrip and the pouch, and I gat a tablet from the scrip, and brake it into my cup, and with the water I made a little broth very swift upon an hot rock, that was to the edge of the fire-hole. And I fed the broth unto the maid, for truly her hands did shake so that she had spilt it all, if that I had done otherwise. And she drank the broth, and was so weak that presently she did fall again to sobbing, yet very quiet, so that I strove not to be troubled in the heart. For, indeed, this thing was but reasonable, and not cause for me to have an anxiousness. But I put my hands under the cloak, and took her hands unto mine, and held them strong and firm, and this did seem to bring something of peace and strength unto her, so that presently the trembling and the weeping went from her. And, indeed, the broth was surely helpful in this matter. And presently I knew that her hands did stir a little within mine, and I loosed somewhat of my grip, and immediately she grasped my hands with a weak and gentle grasp, but looked not yet at me, only did stay very quiet, as that she did gather her strength within her. And indeed I was content, save that an anxiousness of the heart did stir me this time and that, lest some monster should come upon us. And because of this trouble I did hark about me, now and oft, and with a new and strange fearfulness of danger, because that now mine own was given unto my charge. And surely my heart would break, if that there came any hurt unto her. Yeah, him finding her is just fantastic. It's so well done. He really gets it across. Unfortunately, we're going to learn that they're incredibly lewd and lascivious. You'll see. You'll all see. Frank Misers knows what I'm talking about. Now, of a sudden, the maid did make as that she would rise, and I loosed free from her to give help. And she gat me by the hand, and slipped sudden to her knees, and did kiss my hand, and did begin again to weep. And surely I was so utter abashed that I stood very stupid and let her do this thing. But in a moment I drew free from her, for this thing might not be. And I gat to my knee likewise before her, and took her hands, and kissed them once, newly humbled, as it were, and thus should she know all that was in my heart, and of mine understanding. And she did but sob the more, for she was so weak, and utter moved unto me, because that I had come to... Okay, I'm going to take the sentence from the top. Line break! And she did but sob the more, for she was so weak, and utter moved unto me, because that I had come to her through the night of the world. And this thing I knew, though no speech had yet passed between us. And I gave up her hands, lest she need them for her tears, but she left them to lie in my palms, as she did kneel there, and she bowed her head a little over her weeping, but did show that she was mine in verity, unto the very essence of her dear spirit. Oh, wow. Optical antenna tuning in, thanks. And I took her into mine arms very gently and without caress, but presently I stroked her hair, and called her Naani and Murdath, and said many things unto her, that now I scarce do wot of, but she did know them in the aftertime. And she was very quiet in mine arms, and seeming wondrous content, but yet did sob onward for a great time. And oft did I coax her, and say vague things of comfort, as I have told. But truly she did ask no more comfort at that time than that she be sheltered where she did be. And truly she had been lonesome, and in terror, and in grief, and dread, a great and horrid time. Now, presently, she was grown quiet, and I made to put her comfortable in the cloak against the rock, that I should have freedom to make her more of the broth. But yet she did nestle unto me with a little sweet wistfulness that made warm my heart in a most wondrous fashion, for surely she was mine own. And she to begin to say odd words to me, and so to have gentle obedience, and to rest quiet against the rock, the while that I did make the broth. Yet ever her gaze did follow me, as I knew, for I must look oft her way. And I took the broth to her, and she drank it, using her own 2 hands. And I sat by, and eat 3 of the tablets, and drank some of the water, for truly it was foolish great time since last I had eat. Now, in a while, the broth did make bright the eyes of the maid, and she did begin to talk, and at whiles had pauses, because that she lacked of strength, and there was more to be told than an human might have the heart strength and cunning to make plain. And twice she did come again to sobbing, for, truly, her father was dead, and the peoples of the Lesser Redoubt all slain and dispersed through the night of the land. And I learned that an evil force had made action upon the peoples within the Lesser Redoubt, so that some, being utter weak by reason of the failing of the earth current, had opened the great door, and gone forth into the night. And immediately there had come into the Lesser Pyramid great and horrid monsters, and had made a great and brutish chase, and had slain many, but some had escaped forth into the night. And with these had come Naani, after that her father, the Master Monstruacan, had been slain by a shaggy man, very brutal and monstrous. And saying of zoinks, and there had been 3 maids with Naani, when that she made escape into the night, but there had come certain creatures upon them, and they did sleep among the bushes, and had stolen 2, and the other maid had run off, as did Naani, and they had neither met the other any more. And this dreadful happening unto the peoples of the lesser redoubt had been a great while gone, as it to seem to her, but she had no means to tell me how long this time should be, for, in verity, how should she make account? Yet had it been a dread long while unto her, and I found presently that she had been lost all through that time that I did make my journey unto her. For, indeed, this thing I discovered by asking concerning my callings unto her. And she had heard none that did come to her, in any time since she had escaped out of the lost refuge into this dreadful land. Yet, in verity, oft she had callen unto me, until that her heart did grow sick with the desolation of her lonesomeness and her utter forsakenness. And her callings had told unto the evil things of the land that she did be in this part and that, for there had come things and beasts in search for her, but having the gift of the hearing, she had known of their approach most whiles, and had come free from them, yet ofttimes with piteous and fearful runnings and hidings among the rocks and the bushes, so that she had grown afterward to make to calling unto me, save odd whiles, lest she bring the monsters upon her. And indeed, as you do know, naught had come plain unto me, for she was so utter weak that she had no power of her brain elements to send the word afar, or the tellings of her spirit. Yes, the whole book is written in this very aggressively obtuse prose. It makes it tough, but it is. It's all there. Like, there's everything in it that you could possibly want in a tale of this nature, but the prose is, it's a challenge. For my money, oh gosh, Frankenstein's pretty rough too. This might be a little harder because it's difficult for the sake of being difficult. Like, he was writing this in 1912. And I've read some of his other stories, and they are not like this. So it's not it's not an artifact of the time period. He's doing it for the giggle. He's doing it for the love of the game, as it were. Which makes it it's a choice, certainly. But mostly it's a struggle to read it aloud. I know when I was reading through it on my own time to get a read in of it, I was like, oh boy, this is gonna be this is gonna be hard. And it actually not as bad as I was worried it was going to be, but sometimes I will get lost midway through a sentence because I'm like, wait, what has he done? What is he saying? What? Water in me here. And because that she was so sorely chased, she had come nigh to be naked, even as I found her, for the bushes and the rocks had torn her garments from her, and she had naught with which to make any proper mending of them. Oh, excuse me, one sec. Sorry. And for food she had eat the moss upon the rocks, and odd strange berries and growths, and had drunk of the waters of the hot springs, and oft had she been made utter sick, because of the sulphur, or somewhat, of the water, and, maybe, the poison of odd plants. Yet, as I did think, it was like that the first did save her life from the second, but in this thing I do make only a guessing. And in all that dreadful time, since that she had come to be quite alone, she had heard a score drear things, for there had been once the slaying of a young maid nigh unto her, by some brute out in the darkness of the land, and thrice and more had she heard the feet of people running this way and that, and the tread of giants pursuing. And by this telling did I understand those things which mine ears had told to me as I did go across that land, and surely a new pity and sorrow and horror did come upward within me. And the maid told me how that she came once more one and the maid told me how that she came once upon certain of the peoples of the lesser redoubt, as they did hide among the bushes, but they ran with no heed to her callings that she did be human, even as they. And by this it is plain the sore and dreadful panic that was upon the hearts of such. And the bitter chill of the land had made her to strive alway to be nigh unto the fire-holes that were very plentiful. But even as this did be needful unto her, so was it a thing that drew the monstrous brutes of that land, even as I had found in the night land, and in the upward gorge. And because of this she was oft made to stay afar off in the utter cold of the night. Yet in truth, odd whiles she did be so desperate that she would make the venture, and so mayhaps have a time of warmth, and because of this she had been nigh slain in her sleep twice and thrice. Moreover, there were snakes about the fires, though not over plentiful in all parts, and there did be spider crabs and monstrous scorpions. And, indeed, even as she had lain by the fire-hole, very weak and seeming near unto her death, even this time when my call had come unto her to stir her unto life and bitter knowledge of despair, even then was she all surrounded by creatures that were like to crabs, and did squat all about her, and did but wait for her to die, so that she had been feared to sleep, lest they destroy her in her slumber. And by this thing she had known that her death was surely nigh. And lo, out of all the night of the world had come the beat of the master word, strong and powerful, beating as a low and spiritual thunder out of the dark of the night. Yet had she thought of me only as speaking from the far-off mighty pyramid, so that the cry had brought naught of hope unto her, but only a newer and more known despair. And behold, in a little minute there had come her name, spoken surely with the tongue, and a name that was different from the name that my spirit had said after the beat of the word. And immediately I had come out of the bush, and she had fallen back in a sudden great fear that a monster was stolen upon her, and then did see a young man in grey armour, and did know in one instant that I was that olden one of her memory dreams, and the one that had spoken unto her in the spirit across half of the dead world, as it did seem. And now I was come through all that unknown desolation and affright to succor her. And she was immediately safe, but yet all broken because of her weakness and her utter joy and her sweet honour for me. And this is the chief of that which she did tell unto me, and the way that she had seen and did regard the marvel of this our coming together. But surely no man was made ever to be worthy of the way that she did look upon me, or of the words that she did say unto me in her weakness and happiness. Now, with the maid having speech concerning the spider crabs, I looked presently well around, and surely in a minute I saw that they were not gone away, but did be a circle of silent and steadfast watching and impudence and horror all about us. And surely this thing put an anger and disgust upon me, so that I gat to my feet and went unto the border of the light, and I spurned this little monster and that, and did truly kick maybe a dozen, before that they were content to be gone. And by this thing shall you know of their calm and foolish assurance, but yet were they seemingly without courage, for they made not to attack me. Yet a true crab of this day been wishful to pinch me, had I put my toe forth unto it. So he's saying that distant future spider crabs ain't shit.
They ain't nothing. A real crab would have pinched my toes.
I was gonna say,
Oh, these crabs are just waiting around? Our crabs would have eaten the shit out of her alive or dead. They wouldn't have cared. Crabs are efficient. They don't care.
Now I went back to the maid, and she did laugh with a little weak gleefulness, so that I perceived that she was like to be a very joyous maiden, but that I did have her in health. If but I did have her in health. And I made her another cup of the broth, and she drank it very easy. And afterward I made a very stern and playful order that she must sleep, and indeed she to need it sore, for she was gone again from her excitement, and her weakness upon her, yet very happy and content, and without fear. And I made a smooth place for her, and put the pouch and the scrip to be for a pillow, and I did lay her there very quiet and sweet in the cloak, and covered her feet. But indeed, I saw first that they did be sore cut, and without any gear to them, so that I perceived that mine own had worn out her foot gear utter in her lonesome journeyings, and in running from brutes that did come to find her. And so I to know more in the heart somewhat of the true dreadfulness and fear that had companioned mine own. And I was minded then that I would wash and bind up her feet, but yet was she so utter worn that I did prefer that she sleep so soon as she might, and afterward, when she was come wakeful again, then should I take a proper heed of her feet. And truly they were very small and shapely. And presently she slept, and surely I doubt whether she had slumbered so peaceful and proper for a great month, for she never to have known when any evil thing should come upon her in her sleep. And this to be a very dreadful feeling, as you do know well, for you do know how I had been in this same matter. It is worth noting, as a brief aside, that she is clearly a pretty serious survivor if she's been out and about, like lurking and skulking around on her own, unassisted, not wearing, fancy armor, not wearing a discos or anything, for the same amount of time that he's been out there humping it to get to her. So she's the real deal. Like, we're going to hear a whole lot of stuff about, she's all, she's dainty and petite and small and pretty and whatnot. It's like, she's a survivor. Like, I don't know that our boy would have survived without anything. And because I think he's been coming for her for, occasionally he'll give an update saying how long he's been at it. And I think the last one was something on the order of over a month at this point. So she's a survivor. She is a tough cookie. Now, while Naani did sleep, I stripped off mine armor, and took off mine undersuit, which was named the armor suit, and a very warm and proper garment, and made thick that it should ease the chafe of the armor. And afterward I put on the armor again, but the suit I folded and laid beside the maid, for truly she was nigh unclothed by reason of the bushes and the rocks, that had rent her garments all wise. And I stood watch for the maid, the while that she did slumber, and surely she went 10 long hours. And I walked upon this side of the fire-hole, and now upon that, and did oft cease, that I might hearken both with mine ears and with my spirit, for truly I was all wakened to a new care and delight, and did have a fresh and doubled fear of any horrid creature or force of evil. And this shall be very plain to you. And in the end of 10 long hours the maid wakened, and I ran to her all joyed that she was come again to knowledge, and to be that I could talk with her. And she sat upward and looked at me, and there was new light and movement in her, so that I knew her strength was come back into her. And for a little minute she said naught unto me, the while that I did ask how she did be, and she looked at me very keen, so that I wondered somewise in a daze what was in her mind. And she asked me, of a sudden, how long it did be since that I had slept. And having not thought to put away her asking, because that the question was over sudden, I said 84 hours. What? which should be 3 days and the half of a day, or 4 hours and 20. And this thing I knew, because that I kept alway a very careful counting of the hours, lest that I get all adrift, and know not how long I was taken to come to this place and that. And truly, even as I told this thing to the maid, I was grown very quaint in the head. For indeed I was gone a wondrous while without slumber, and had done much and bitter work in that time, and before then had been much lacking of rest, as you do know. So yeah, him being up for 84 hours is, There may have been a time in my life when I could have pulled that many all-nighters, but not while I was carrying gear and, searching for a person. And sudden the maid cried out something, and tossed the cloak from her, and had me into her arms, and did heed not to have any foolish shame of her nakedness. And in verity I knew not how I was gone so strange, but do see now that I was nigh to swoon for lack of slumber and rest. And she kept me very steady for a little, and afterward helped me to be laid upon the ground. And she put the scrip and the pouch under my head, so that I did lie very calm and restful, and did be the more so, because that I was grown so tired in the heart, the which did make my head to be very hushed, as that all the world was grown very quiet in a moment. And the maid did mind then that she did lack to be properly covered, and she gat the cloak and put it about her, and afterward sit a little beside me, and did rub my hands. And presently I was something more to myself, and she did grow more happy of her mind, and made to give me something for my stomach. For, indeed, I was grown those late hours to be foolish, and to have no wiseness to proper eating. And she did lift my head, the while that she did take the scrip from under, and kept me very sweetly upon her knee, and so until she had gat free a pack of the tablets, and the flask for the cup. For I had put all matters back into the scrip before Naani had gone unto sleep, and because of this I had not been able to eat or drink aught, save by wakening her, as you perceive. For, indeed, I had put the scrip and the pouch under her head for a pillow, as I have told. And she would not bide that I should do aught, but only did ask concerning the making of the water, and was wondrous amazed to see how the powder did fizz up and become water. And indeed she had too much into the cup, for truly it rose up and ran to the ground. And when she had done thus, and ceased to marvel, she had put 3 of the tablets into the water, and made me a broth, even as I had made a broth for her. But, indeed, I was in no need, and had done very well to eat the tablets and drink the water. Yet, truly, I was not wishful to lack the love of her way, as you may think. Now, while I did drink the broth, I did be very restful upon the earth, and mine head against mine own maid. And I did mind me now that I tell her concerning the armour suit, that I did mean for her to wear. Yet I said not that I had stripped it from me, for then she had been like to say nay, and to trouble that I was like to come to a chill, as is the way of a woman. But indeed I might so well have told her, for truly she did not, but she did know on the moment, and set to a little unto weeping, yet very gentle and sweet, and did kiss me as I lay there, and say such things as should make a young man the better to have heard, if but that his own dear love doth say the same. And she would nowise wear the garment, but yet in the end I prevailed by gentle reasonings, and because that I was her master, as I was born to be, and moreover her own sweet sense did show that I spoke for wisdom, for how should she come through all the bitter way before, if that she had not a strong and close-made garment, and, as you do mind, her coverings did be in utter rags, as I have told, yet very sweet and clean, as I had known, so that I ween she had stripped oft in the lonesome night, and washed her garments in this or that hot spring of the sulphur waters, and other matters. And, in verity, always she was much giving to washings, as I did soon perceive. Now, presently, I did be very well again, but with a sore slumber that did press upon my head. Yet, ere I should sleep, I did mean that I bathe her feet and bind them with ointment and with my pocket cloth, and truly her feet were very small and pretty. You'll be hearing a lot about feet. She has small and pretty feet, and he's going to tell us about them a lot. This is not where the lewdness stops, though. I hope you people are ready. I don't know that I was. They might even kiss, the animals. And I sat me up, taking. Yeah, no, it says talking. It must be taking, though. Anyway, and I sat me up, talking my head from her knee, and told her of mine intent. But, in verity, she did but throw her arms about my neck, and give me one loving kiss, and laughed so hearty that I did think to do this thing, when indeed she was the better able to mind it, and I the better suited to have my rest. And surely this was very true, and I made no ado, save to give her the ointment, but lay back, and did be quiet. Now I did be upon my right side, and she went to my back, and took the cloak from about her, and spread it upon me, and afterwards stooped over very dainty, and kissed me, and bade me to go very swift to my sleep, for that she did mean to make her toilette, and to get into mine armor suit. And I made no foolishness in this matter, yet told her to ease the cloak a little about me, so that I should have room to take the discos from my hip. And this thing I did, and took the discos to my breast, as was my habit. And surely I saw that her eyes did look at me with a little shining, because that I had so strange and fierce a bedmate. And I made her to promise that she keep a very keen harking, the which was like that she should do, and to call me on the instant that she did perceive any unease in the night. And after that I shut mine eyes, that I should not shame her, and put out mine arms, and kissed her once, and turned from her unto my slumber, and she away to my back, that she might be modest to her needs. And surely I was asleep in but a little moment, and with a great love and delight in my heart and in all my being. And truly I waked not for 12 great hours. When that time was gone, lo, I came awake, and surely the maid did sit beside me, so bonny, and so winsome and pretty, that mine arms went unto her in a moment, and she into them, and gave me a loving and tender kiss, and afterwards slipped away from me, very sensible and loving, and did stand up and turn about to be looked at. For she did wear the armor suit, and surely it was loose upon her, but yet very pleasing, being close knit. And I to my seat, from lying, that I might see the maid the better. And in verity I must kiss her again, for she did be with her hair all about her, that she did look pretty unto me. And her little feet did be bare, and so that they made my heart new tender to look upon them, for truly she was utter lost of footgear. And I to my knee to her, and she, not to deny me, did come to be kissed again. Much smooching. Now, when I found how great a time I had slept, I did scold mine own. But yet, as she did say, I must have long slumber, if that I go so long wakeful, else should I lose my strength. And I asked how oft she had eat, and she told me but the once, and that 6 hours off. And on this I did scold again, but surely she put a very pretty finger sudden upon my lips, so that I might do naught but laugh, and kiss that same finger. And after that we did eat and drink, and made plans. And once I did comfort the maid, for indeed her sorrow did rise in her, because that her father was come unto his death, and the peoples of the lesser redoubt all destroyed, and adrift in the night amid the monsters of that land. And in verity I was set that we go quickly out of that place, ere there came an horrid destruction upon us. and surely there should scarce be any human beside in all that land, for there must have come death upon the chief of those that did make escape. And after we had eat and drunk, I did count the packs of the tablets, and was thankful in all my being that I had been careful and denied my belly, for I did perceive that there were left enough for our needs, if that we made a good speed, and did not fear to be empty. And of the water powder, as it might be named, there were left 2 full flasks, and somewhat of the one that I had drunk from, all my journeying. And by this thing you shall perceive that we did not be like to die for the need of such matters. And here, as it doth occur unto me, I do ponder how it did be that we had no thought to slay any small creature for our food. But mayhap we had no knowledge this way, for surely they did not this thing to my knowing in the mighty pyramid. But yet, as I have said before this, I have not all knowledge of the doings of the peoples. But in verity, I never saw joint meat in all the time of that far life that I do wot of. Yet, had we but slain somewhat for our hunger in that great wandering, we had been less empty in the belly. Now, before that we should do aught beside, we must contrive that Naani have some gear for her feet, and to this intent I did make a search into the pouch, and surely I found that there did be a change pair of inner shoes, that were made to go within mine own shoes of the grey metal. And at this I was wondrous glad, and did make the maid to sit upon a little rock, while that I made a fitting of the shoes. And surely they did be utter big and clumsy upon her little feet, so that I was in surprise to know how great is a man beside a maid. But in the end I had a cunning thought, for I cut off all the side of a strap, throughout the length of the strap, very thin and careful, and so had a lace to tie the boots around the tops, which were soft and easy for such a purpose. And after that I stood away to look at the maid, and neither she nor I were truly pleased, for indeed she was too pretty to be so hid and muffled. Yet were we glad otherwise, for now she might go without hurt to her feet. And afterward we packed our gear, and she did make a bundle of her torn garments, for truly they might be proper somewise to our need. And so we to begin the way out of that desolate land. And we went forward together across the land, and the journey was no more a weariness, but of a close and sweet joy. Yet did I have a new anxiousness, as you do perceive, lest that any monster come to harm mine own. And we went 12 great hours in the bed of the olden sea, and did eat twice in that time. And surely the maid did grow utter weak and weary, for she was not come proper unto her strength. Yet did she make no odd saying to tell me of this thing. But indeed I did know, and I stopped in the 13th hour, and took her into mine arms, even as I should carry a babe, and I went forward with her, and did hush her protesting with a kiss, and afterward she did but nestle unto me, and shelter against my breast. And I bade the maid to sleep, but indeed she had no power to this end, for her body did ache very sore. But yet did she strive to give me an obedience in this thing. And in the 18th hour, when that I stopped to have food and drink, surely she did be awake, and yet had she been utter silent, and I made to scold her. But she gat from mine arms, and did go upward upon her toes, and put her finger against my lips very naughtily. And afterward she did be impudent unto me, and did deny me to kiss her. But she went unto my back, and did open the scrip, and gat me to my food, even as a quiet and proper wife should go. And she did be so sedate that I knew she had mischief her heart of harmless kind. But afterward this did pass sudden into weeping, for she had a quick and sore memory of her father and of the destruction. And I took the maid into mine arms, and did let her be there very gentle, and made not to kiss or to comfort her, but yet to give comfort. And presently she ceased from weeping, and did slip her hand into mine, and I to keep it within, very soft and quiet. And afterward she began to eat her tablets, yet always she did be very hushed, so that I did be quiet also, and feel as that my love did be round her as a shield. And I knew that she had knowledge of this thing in her heart. And oft I harked into the night of the land, but there was nowhere any sound or disturbing of the ether to trouble me. And the maid in mine arms did know when that I harked, for, in verity, she had the night hearing, and the understanding spirit that doth be needful to such. And odd whiles did I look down to her through the gloom that did be about us, and presently I did perceive that she looked up to me out of mine arms. And I kissed her. Now, in all that day we had come nowhere upon any fire-hole in the bed of the olden sea, and truly I did ache to be nigh unto the warmth of such, for I did feel the cold of the land, because that I was weary, and because that I had not the thickness of the armor suit below mine armor to warm me. And the cloak did be about the maid, for I had feared that she should grow cold as I carried her. Yet now she did know subtly that I was come to feel an utter chill of the land, and she gat from mine arms, and put the cloak about me, and afterward came again into mine arms. And I let the cloak bide there, and drew it forward to be around her also. Yet truly I was joyful that I did be cold, as you shall perceive. For it was sweet to the heart to bear somewhat of that dread chill for mine own, and she half troubled and likewise with understanding of mine heart, because that I was less clothed than I had been. Now in a little while the maid did pack the scrip, and so we did make ready again to go forward, for I was grown anxious, as you may suppose, that we should come to some fire-hole, that we have a place for sleep that had warmth and light, for truly the cold of the land did be drear and horrid. And I stooped to take the maid into mine arms, that I should carry her, but she did say nay, that she be well rested. And I not to gainsay her, for she did mean the thing, as I perceived, and I had no desire to force my way upon her, save when I saw truly that she did seem to go unwisely. And indeed, when such did be the case, I did strive with her, only with a nice reasonableness, as you shall know. And the maid walked by my side, and wondrous silent, but yet very nigh to me, so that I knew she did be very full of love to me, and of that quaint and sweet humbleness that love doth breed odd whiles in a woman when she doth be with her man, if but that man be also her master. Quick casual reminder that the verbiage used here has not necessarily aged well in terms of the perceived role of the female and male relationships. Just bear with it. Product of its era. Actually, product of a bygone era even for the time this was written. And presently I perceived that the cloak did be over mine own shoulders, and I took it, and would have put it about the maid. But truly she did not allow this, and when I did be stern with her, that she obey me in this matter, she did stand upon her toes, that she might kiss me, and I pulled my head down, and surely she kissed me, and coaxed me that I wear the cloak, else should I give pain to her, in that I did surely be cold, because she did wear the armor suit. Yet I would not hark to this thing, so that the maid did be truly in trouble. And first she made a threatening that she wear but her olden garments, that did be only rags, if that I did persist. But this I saw to be foolishness, and scarce meant, and did as much need to smile at her, as that I did think to scold her, but I did be firm that she wear the cloak. And lo, she went sudden into crying, and this had been beyond my thoughts. And truly it set me all adrift, for I perceived that she did be greatly distressed concerning this matter, when I had conceived that she did but mean this thing for tenderness' sake. But mine heart helped me to understand, and I saw how she did be truly shamed in her sweet womanhood, if that I helped her not in this matter, for she did feel that she was made to do hurt unto the one that was her love. And this thing I do pray you to think upon, that you understand, for, indeed, until that I was made to think, I had not seen it this wise for her. And in the end I came to agreement with the maid, that we wear the garment hour by hour, in turn, and she to wear it the first hour, and I to wear it the second hour, and so to go forward. And truly this did be an happy arranging, but yet she stamped her foot a little, as I put the cloak about her. And thrice in the hour did she ask me concerning the time that was gone, and surely, when the hour was but up, she had the cloak off in a moment, and went to my back and cast it upon my shoulders, and after to my front, and made it fast upon my breast, and so eager and naughty was she to this, that I took her by the shoulders, and shook her somewhat, even as she had made to stamp at me, yet mayhaps with more of laughter. And she to take no heed at all, but to button the cloak and be very sedate. Yet, in verity, I caught her up into mine arms, and kissed her, for a sweet and naughty maid, and she very willing, now that she had gotten something of her way. But yet in an hour I did have the cloak about her again, and so did straiten matters, as you shall conceive. Now, when we had gone forward through 5 great hours, I perceived that the maid did be utter worn, but yet did make presence that she was unwearied. And because I saw how she did be, I did heed and be anxious only that we come to some rock, to be for our safe refuge, and mayhap there to find an hole or cave, that should be somewhat to keep our heat about us, for there was nowhere any fire-hole anigh in all those hours. And presently we came to a part where there did be rocks, and we went to and fro in the gloom, and came in the end to a place where the rocks did go upward into the night, and that it had been a small and ancient cliff. And surely in a while I found a hole that did go inwards of the rock, and the hole did be above mine head. Yet when I was come to it, and had made the discos to spin therein, that I should have light to see whether there did be any creature or creeping thing in the hole, I was well pleased, for truly it did be sweet and dry. Now the maid had cried out a little to see the sudden shining that did come from within the hole, when I made the discos to spin, and because of the low roar of the weapon. But I answered her that there did be naught to have fear concerning, and so she was peaceful again, but yet a little trembling when that I came down to her, for indeed the discos did make always a strange sounding and a quaint and drear shining, as you do know, and she did be feared for me that some evil force had come upon me out of the cave, for she had neither knowledge nor conceiving that there ever did be so wondrous a weapon in all the world. And I gave the maid an help upward to the little cave, and came after myself. So we did be in a very nice and cozy place, that did not be easily gotten at by any monstrous thing. And surely I was utter glad for such a place, so that both should have safety, and we might sleep in the same hours. And, in truth, this was a needful plan, for if one had stayed wakeful to keep watch of the other... And in truth, this was a needful plan, for if one had stayed wakeful to keep a watch for the other, then had our sleep taken us double hours. And this thing might not be, else should our food be done, and we to be twice so long as need be, ere ever we did come unto the refuge of the mighty pyramid. And I utter wearied and anxious of the heart and spirit that I bring mine own soon unto the safety and glory of my mighty home, and so free from the destruction that did hang above our two souls for ever in that land, and the peril that did be everywhere, save in the last redoubt. I do see people making comments. I will get to those. There is a chapter break coming up. I'll actually be able to read them. Now when we were come into the hole of the rock, the maid did slip the scrip and the pouch from my shoulders, and she gat out the tablets, and made some of the water, and did be very swift and natty, and all to the despite of the gloom that did be utter in that little cave. Oh golly. We're going to torture the English language to the breaking point. Okay, let's try that again. Now, when we were come into the hole of the rock, the maid did slip the scrip and the pouch from my shoulders, and she gat out the tablets, and made some of the water, and did be very swift and natty, and all to the despite of the gloom that did be utter in that little cave. And we eat each of us 2 of the tablets, and drank some of the water, and I made jest with the maid, how that the tablets did be proper for strength, yet very lacking to fill the belly, though, indeed, I named it otherwise. I know on a previous week we made a crack about, the the Regenitron, or the Enertron, from Chrono Trigger. Your HP and MP have been restored, but you're still hungry. And she to agree, and did pat mine arm, and did tell me how that she should cook me a monstrous tasty and great meal when that we were come unto the mighty pyramid. And immediately afterward she did make to laugh upon me, and to name me impudently for so much thought unto my feeding, and afterward again to silence, and to patting my hand.
My God, they're holding hands, so lascivious.
Now, when that we had made an end of eating and drinking, I was very ready for sleep, for truly it was 26 great hours since that I did last slumber, but for the maid it did be 38 great hours, for, as you do mind, she had made no sleeping when that she did lie in mine arms for 6 hours of our journeying. And I made how we should sleep, and put the cloak about the maid, but surely she did refuse, very piteous, and seeming to have also somewhat of doubt and puzzlement. But in this thing I did be very stern and intending, for she did not be over warm clad, as you do know, and moreover she was but a little one, while I did be wondrous hardy. And in verity I made her to obey, and gave her the scrip and the pouch for her pillow, and she, as it did seem to me, to sob her to herself a little in the gloom of the night. But yet did I stay my heart a little stern to mine intent. And I wrapped the cloak about her, and set the scrip and the pouch very nice beneath her head, and afterward I knelt over to kiss her, before that I came unto mine own slumber. Yet did she turn her mouth from me, and did put her hand above her face to ward me off, the which did grieve me, for truly I did heed away that I should never thrust my love upon her in her lonesomeness. Oh, I did heed alway. That's why I couldn't read that. That's me. Yet did she turn her mouth from me, and did put her hand above her face to ward me off, the which did grieve me. For truly I did heed alway that I should never thrust my love upon her in her lonesomeness, but only let it be to her for a shield, and for all comfort unto her heart. And I turned my back, and went a pace away, and lay down, for truly there did be no way else but to be near unto the maid, for it was but a little cave. And I lay very hushed, because that I was so sore in the heart. Yet truly I could not come unto my slumber, for I was so disturbed in my love, and I stayed very quiet maybe for a great hour, and did fight that I shake not mine armour to jinglings with the utter cold that did make me to tremble. But the maid did sleep very sweet and calm, as I perceived by her breathings. Yet, in verity, the maid did be so much awake as I, and with some sweet and naughty intent of the heart, as my spirit did sudden perceive. And I lay very hushed, and did wait to discover what this thing might be. And I made my breathing to seem as the breathing of one that did sleep, even as that naughty maid did make pretending. And surely in a while I did know that she moved very quiet, and came unto me, and I made yet that I slept very sound and strong, though the cold did nigh to conquer all my quietness. And in a moment I perceived the intent of the maid, for I did feel the cloak spread over me with a wondrous gentleness, and afterward there did be a soft kiss put upon my hand, and the maid back then to her pillow. Yet, as I did hear, she brought it something more nigh to me, as that she did crave to be near unto me, that was her own love. And I sat up, and put forth my hand suddenly, and took the maid into mine arms, and she to nestle unto me, so that I did be wordless, because that I loved her so utter. And presently I felt her to stir in mine arms, and I loosed her somewhat, for I did be always very mindful that I impose not upon her dear liberty of maidenhood. Yet she made not to go from me, but only to gather the cloak about her, so that we did both be in the cloak. And she asked why this might not be, for surely it did be madness that one should starve, and the other be very nice in warmth. And indeed this did be but wisdom, yet it might not come the first from me. And I said to mine own that this thing should be, and she reached out, and brought the scrip and the pouch, and placed them for a pillow for my head, and told me that I should put my head thereon. And I asked her how this did be right, for she did need a pillow more than I. But she bid me to bide, and to have obedience in my turn. And when I was so, she spread the cloak over me, and afterward crept under, and did lie down beside me, and did seem as that she was asleep in one moment. Yet, though she did be so sedate and matter of the fact, as we do say, while that she was wakeful, she did yet nestle unto me very sweet and childlike in her sleep. And surely I did want to kiss her, but yet did refrain from my love, for truly I did well that I treat her very gently at such a time, as you do perceive. And, in verity, such a maid doth make a reverence in the soul of a man. Now, presently, I was gone over unto sleep, and in 7 hours I waked, and in that time had the maid slumbered through 8 hours. Yet did I intend that she be not disturbed until that we were a-ready to the journey. And I slipped from under the cloak, and put it round her, very gentle. Yet it to be as she did miss me, even in her sleep, for it to seem to me that she put out her arms in the darkness, and she made a little moaning in her slumber. Yet in a moment she did be quiet, and afterward I put the cloak about her again. And I went then to the opening of the little cave, and put forth my head, and looked well about, and harked a long while. But there stirred nothing in the night thereabout, neither did my spirit wot of any matter for trouble unto us. And presently I gat out 2 of the tablets, for, as you do know, the maid had given me the scrip and the pouch to be my pillow, so that I had power to come at these matters without awakening her. But for her own part, as I did learn after, she had used her torn garments to be for a pillow, yet had made no explaining, as you do mind, and surely this was one of her naughty whimsies, and mayhap she had been so full of a playful happiness, as doth take the heart betimes, that she had made a little mystery where there did be no mystery, and this but to release her joy, and so to say masterful things unto me, out of her impudence, and afterward had meant that she tell me, but yet was gone unto slumber, ere that she did mind her. Yet since that time a new thought hath come unto me, that she did mean in the first that she should come into mine arms to sleep, and thereby need no pillow. But afterwards it may hap that she saw with a sudden olden wisdom, all in one moment, and afterward did act lovingly, yet with understanding. And so did change from her intent, yet with no improperness of modesty, but only with a niceness of sense, which she did make no talk of, but yet did have. And surely how oft is a man thus wisely ordered, unknowing? And to cease from these thinkings, and to go forward, I eat 2 of the tablets, and afterward made some of the water. And lo, the fizzing of the water waked the maid, and I knew that she reached out very sudden to me, but afterward knew in a moment what did make the sound, and that I did be up and making ready for the journeying. And she gat up in the darkness, and said my name, and came unto me, and kissed my forehead in the dark, and immediately she ran her hands gently downward of my left arm, and when she came to the cup she took it from me, and slapped my hand very dainty. And afterward I knew that she took a sip from the cup, and then did turn that side to me, and so gave me to drink, and did scold me that I had not waked her to tend to my needs, for surely she did be mine own, to have her duties to me. And after that I had drank, she took the cup, and did finish it, and she gat 2 of the tablets, as I did think, and came afterward, and sat upon the rock to my side, and did nestle somewhat against mine armour, and took mine arm, and set it about her, and so did make to eat. But first she put her tablet unto my lips in the dark, that I should kiss it. And surely this was an olden way of Murdath, my beautiful one, so that I did be all shaken of the heart. And I kissed the tablet, and immediately she nestled unto me, and did begin to eat. And truly it was as that eternity had been rolled backward, for I had discovered the soul of mine olden love in this dainty maid to my side. Yet in looks had Murdath been of an utter differing, but in verity Naani was wondrous lovely. But though I to be so stirred, I did be silent, for my heart was very full of memory. And as the maid eat, she slipped her fingers between mine, curling them softly, and surely her fingers did be very little, and she stirred mine olden memories again in this thing, and surely I was dumb before my memory. And presently she put up the second tablet, as I did think, that I should kiss it, and I kissed it, as before. Yet ere she did begin again to eat, I did wot suddenly that she hid some intent from me. And I caught her hand very quick in the dark, and her fingers did close upon the tablet very guilty, so that I perceived that I had guessed aright. And I opened her fingers, and I found that there did be but half of a tablet within her hand. And surely she had taken but that one tablet, and she had given me the one end to kiss, and afterward the other, so that I should suppose that she did eat 2 proper and complete tablets. And I perceived that she had done this thing secretly, being minded that if she did eat alway but 1 tablet, then I should never lack, even... Oh, God, I'm just going to take it from the top. Sorry. I know what's being said, but my brain got lost in the midway through. My bad. Basically, she's eating less food than she should be. There will be a scolding presently. And I caught her hand very quick in the dark, and her fingers did close upon the tablet very guilty, so that I perceived that I had guessed aright. And I opened her fingers, and I found that there did be but the half of a tablet within her hand. And surely she had taken but that 1 tablet, and had given me the one end to kiss, and afterward the other, so that I should suppose she did eat 2 proper and complete tablets. And I perceived that she had done this thing secretly, being minded that if she eat always but 1 tablet, then should I never lack, even if that we did be over long coming unto the mighty pyramid. And I asked how oft already she had eat but... Oh my God! It doesn't always trip me up, but it does generally do so at some point. And I asked how oft already had she eat but 1 for 2, and she confessed in a very... Okay. And I asked how oft already had she eat but 1 for 2, and she confessed in a very quiet voice that this did make the 5th time. And I was so angered that I took her hand and whipped it thrice, so hard that she had screamed if that she had been any coward. And she said nothing to me, neither went away. And she began again to eat the half of the tablet, and did eat it from the other hand, as I to be aware, because that her left hand did be hurt. And she wept not, but was very quiet by me, and presently I knew that she kissed the whipped hand secretly in the dark. And afterward I put mine arm again about her, and she did be there in it, very sober and happy. And when she had made an end of the first tablet, I gave her the second, and she eat it very quiet and content. And presently I talked with her, and showed her how that this thing did hurt my heart, even as she had been hurt that I did be cold garmented, the while that she did be warm. And I showed her the wickedness that she had done, that she did play so foolish with her life and strength, and well might she be weak and all alack. Yet did I think a little sweet impudence came into her, as I told her concerning her wickedness. And I took her then into mine arms, and I showed her how that I knew all the unselfish and wonderfulness of her heart. Wonder, oh my gosh, okay. And I took her then into mine arms, and I showed her how that I knew all the unselfishness and wonder of her heart, and I kissed her, and truly her lips did have a lovely glad humbleness as they came unto mine, so that it was as that I had not kissed her truly until that moment. And I made her to promise that she never deceive me in such matter again. And indeed she promised, but yet with no ready tongue. And afterward we made proper for the journey. And when we had gotten our gear together, I went downward of the rock, and gave the maid help to come down. And when we did stand at last upon the bottom of the rock, I asked Naani how she did feel, and whether her feet did hurt. And she answered that she did be very well, and had no soreness in her feet. And we went forward then, and she close unto me, and odd whiles with low speech, but more oft with silence, because that we did need that we hark alway for any danger or horror, and also there did be so utter a silence upon that part of the land, which did be the bottom of the olden sea. Sorry. And we eat and we drank at the 6th and the 12th hours, and in the 15th hour we came upon a great slope of the earth, and lo, it did be the far side of the sea. And we went upward for a long hour, and so came to the upward part, and did be able once more to look over the greatness of that land.
All right. We're at a chapter break. I'm going to go and do a quick look at all the comments because there's been quite a few. Let's see. Sounds very poetic. Frank says, got my fireplace going, drink, cigar, and you on speaker. Life is good. Chris Camp says, here till the end, cover art slideshow, very cool. Yeah, this one had so many different cover art ones that I didn't want to have to take a break in between to switch to new ones, that I figured I'd just set it on a slideshow. If it's too quick, I can slow that down. I love culture, story of my life, even love is odd, S&M tinted, yeah, it is a bit. Their relationship's a little, there's some light stuff I think that, stuff that hasn't aged terribly well, for current standards, in terms of, the slapping of the hand. There's a few other things that are a little okay. Impudence, impishness, and what's the other one? There's, her not doing everything he says or doing it in ways that he doesn't want her to do it, and him being her master. It's doesn't always age well. Let's see. The author went back into World War I after being wounded. He was a bit of a glory hound. Yeah. premature end to what could have been a literary legend. Agreed. War sucks. Tolkien was in World War I and he survived. Makes you wonder about all the talent lost there. Oh, yeah, I mean, in the horrendous meat grinder. That was that. After one ends, there are no real winners, only lost ones. Oh, yeah. I know the cover art you're talking about, Frank Miser's. It does kind of look like Pac-Man. It's very Boschian in that it's like this horror-scape. It's bright and colorful, which, maybe isn't totally accurate, but you have, yellow things. You have stuff described with color. One of the things that I do like is, despite the fact that everything is pitch black all the time, it's actually, there are sources of light throughout the Nightland. Admittedly, I am enjoying the time sipping anejo with my Merrill pug in my lap and frag in your ears. This is the way. Cookie chasing her tail. Oh, that is sweet. Anyway, it's a good time. So yeah, we have what time is it now? Yeah, we'll get this next chapter in and then we'll call it. It's still pretty hefty. So give me 1 sec here, and we'll get rolling again.
Chapter 11. The Homeward Way. Now, truly, it did seem very light, after the horrid and lonesome gloom that did lie always in the bottom of that olden sea, and I saw that I was come out upon a part of the land that did be surely to the right of that place where I made entry into the seabed, on mine outward going. And there did be a great plenty of fire-holes, so that mine heart was warmed to see them. Yet did I mind to be wary in coming unto them, for, as you do know, there did so oft be life of this okay. He's right, critters live around the fire-holes. And there did be a great plenty of fire-holes, so that mine heart was warmed to see them. Yet did I mind to be wary in coming unto them, for, as you do know, there did so oft be life of this kind and that about these fires. And I looked now down to the maid, and she upward to me, and did come more anigh to me, and truly she did be most wondrous pretty and sweet, yet did seem very awearied and pale in the face, so that I made blame upon myself that I had overwalked her, for, in verity, I do think that I was so strong and hard that I had been made from iron, and she but a dear and tender maid. Yet did she refuse that I should so reproach myself, and did but stand anigh to me, and look at me with reproach myself. I just went back to the same line. And did but stand anigh to me, and look at me with eyes that were very beautiful. And so I put mine arms about her, and kissed her, and afterward looked again over the land, that I should shape out our further journeying. And from that place where I did stand there spread out all before me the blue shining that I had seen from the mouth-part of the upward gorge, yet did it be a great way off. And indeed I should tell you in this place that it was by the glimmering of this shine within the sky of the night that I had steered, as we did come across the olden seabed. And truly it was but a broad thing to go toward, but yet did serve me, in that it told me that I went toward the far side of the seabed, and made not to go all about in blind circles in the night. And after that I had considered a while, I did know somewhat where the gorge should be, and perceived that I should go unto my left, but not over much, for indeed I saw the red shining of the giant's hole that lay at a great space that way, and surely I must go so that I missed the place of the giant so much as I might, and in the same going come not over near unto the blue shining that lay before me, across all the far part of that country, for in verity I mistrusted the place where that shining did be. Now, when I had gained somewhat of knowledge where should be found the mouth of the upward gorge, I put mine arm about the maid, where she did stand so nigh to me, and very hushed, the while that I had looked about. And I pointed outward. And I pointed outward over the dark land unto my left, and told her that the gorge did be somewhere that way, a great distance off, yet utter out of my sight, and only to be known that it did be somewise there by the things that I did mind of, concerning my way after I came into the land. Now the maid, having stood very quiet, had looked all that time about her, and so had come to some knowing of the place where she did be in the land, for she to know the land some ways, as you shall think. And she asked me how I did mind to go, and truly I said, so straight as we might, but yet so that we come neither too nigh to the shining, nor to the great red fire pit of the giants. And the maid bade me to look in the way that I did mind to go, and I looked, but yet there was nothing, save, as they did seem, certain fire-holes that had a green shining about them. And she set out unto me then, how that there did go a tract of bad gas in that part of the land, that should be utter poisonous unto any, and this had been well known in the Lesser Redoubt, by the reading of their instruments. And where the gas did go, there was a green shining about the fire-holes. I forget, it's been a minute since I did chemistry, which gases you can use to get a green flame effect. I used to know this. It's embarrassing that I've forgotten so many things. Speculative. Speculating as to what gases are around. And she showed me how the place of the gas went a great way unto the northwest, so that I learned now somewhat how the land did lie, as we do say in these days. And it was in all the northwest that the great blue shining did burn. And I asked Naani how they named this, and she told me by no name, save but the Shine. And mine own made very earnest to warn me regarding the shine, and urged that we go no more thatwards than should be needful to our lives, the which, indeed, was no wish of mine, and her reason to be that the fixed giants did be within the borders of the shine, and all hid in the light thereof, save when the burning mist did roll this way or that. And I took a great heed of this thing, and did guess that these fixed giants were somewhat even as the great watchers that were about the mighty pyramid, as you do know. And immediately I minded me of that utter monstrous face I did see amid the bright smoke of the shine, when that I came first into the land. And surely this had been one of the fixed giants, that Naani told me were forces of great and very horrid evil. And I asked mine own how far the place of the gas went across the land, and she pointed and made further explaining. And, in verity, in the end, I saw not how I should come that way to the mouth of the gorge, if that I would keep offwards from the shine. Yet, in a moment, Naani asked me how I did come across the land, when that I searched for her. And truly, as I showed her, I had walked but then by a sweet chance. Whoa. Oh, I got lost, that's why. My bad. My eyes skipped a line. Or skipped back a line. And my mouth caught it first. And then I told you about it, so no secrets here. And truly, as I showed her, I had walked then by a sweet chance, or guiding, alway upon the far side of the place of gas. Place of the gas. And so unto the olden seabed, and was in this way come free of the gas, and all unknowing of it. And at this telling, the maid said that we go downward again into the bed of the olden sea, and walk some great hours below the shore, but in the way that should take us unto the southwest, and so until we were come beyond the place of the gas. And afterward up again into the land, and then to have an utter caution that we escape the watching of the giants who did be ever about the great red fire hole. And by this plan very speedy to the entering part of the upward gorge. And truly this did be very good and sound, and such as I should have planned in a moment, for indeed I am not over slow in such matters, only the maid did be very eager and quick, and it was very sweet to me that she should thus plan, for, in verity, I loved alway the sounding of her voice, and to hear her have speech, and to plan and think, and so to show me the workings of her inward self, and her dear qualities and human niceness, and to have part and lot always with me in all things and thinkings. And we shaped to this plan that Naani made. But at that time, as you do mind, it was somewhat of 17 hours since we had last slumber. Since last we had slumber, and the maid was sore wearied, as I did see. And I showed to her how that it did be wise that we have our rest very soon, and so forward again in new strength and ability. And the maid did soon agree with me, for indeed she was very weary. And we made it that we should venture unto one of the fire-holes that lay no great seeming away, a little upon our right, which was the northward way of that land. And we went toward the fire-hole, and truly it did be further off than we had thought, for it was a good hour before that we came anigh to it. And, indeed, it to prove a very great and red glowing shine, that went upward into the night, out of the hollow place where it did burn among rocks. And when we were come near unto it, I made a sign to the maid that she be utter hushed, and I took the discos from mine hip, and went forward before her, and afterward to my knees and hands, and beckoned backward to mine own, that she do likewise. And we came this way to the edge of the hollow place where the fire-hole did burn, and so were able in the end to look downward. And truly it was a great fire that burned in the earth in that place. Yet, as I perceived very swift, there did seem nowhere any monstrous thing about the fire, the which set some peace upon mine heart, but yet not over much, for it was come fresh upon me that we did well to stay afar off from the fires of the land, in that it was about the fires that all the living things did congregate. And I looked a great time, and the maid crept unto mine elbow, and looked with me, and afterward we harked very keen into the night, but there was nowhere any trouble of the air or of the ether of that land. Yet I spoke quiet with the maid, and showed unto her how that we did well to stay offward from the fires. But truly she was so utter cold and chill that she did beg that we go down by the fire-hole, even should it be that we stay no more there than should put a warmth through the utter chill of our bodies. And in verity, I was so bitter cold that I was all weak to go beside the fire. Yet, truly, I do think that the shiverings of the maid was that which did force my heart, to go against the teachings of my head, so that in the end we came down into the hollow, and very swift unto the fire. Now, truly, it doth seem a strange thing to be so diverse-minded as this, when that, as you do know, I had been so long a search for a fire-pit, and mayhaps you shall perceive the better how my heart and brain did be contrary, when that I tell to you now how that I have belief that my spirit did even then be subtly set to warn me. And also, as all do know, it doth be easy to forget this warning, and that of experience, by which saying I do mean that, oft as I had come to know the dangers that did be alway about the fire-holes, yet when I did be far off from them, and mine own broken and a shiver with the chill of the land, the danger did seem but a small thing, and afar off from my mind, and unreal, but the cold to be doubly real. Yet when we did come unto the fire-hole, Yet when we did come even unto the fire-hole, then did come again all about my heart the truth of those dangers that had seemed, but a while gone, so little. And indeed I do hope you perceive me in this thing, and how that I strive alway to set unto you the utter truth, so that you shall go with me all the way, and lend me your nice understanding. An MUD, basically think of it as a text adventure. They proliferated quite a bit in the 80s. There's a few that are still kicking. I forget what it stands for off the top of my head. There were I've played a couple of them. They're quite a lot of fun. But yeah, basically a text adventure. Some of them are networked, so that you have a more interactive environment. Was a time I could have given you a people's history of MUDs, but I can't right now because my brain is in Nightland mode. I'll tell you why this book didn't develop a subculture where people talk like this to each other all the time. Because it's exhausting. Like, if Esperanto couldn't really land in the zeitgeist for long, this never could. Or rather, it sort of did, like, several decades before this was a thing, before this was written, and that's what it's aping. Multi-user dungeons. Generally a multiplayer affair, and you basically, yeah, it's a text adventure for lack of a better term. Highly recommend, if you've never experienced one, to go check one out. If you like a role-playing game where the role-playing is the thing. Where were we? Oh, did I already turn the page? Yes, I turned the page. That's why I'm lost. Now, when we were come down unto the fire pit, I went this way and that among the rocks that did be in the bottom of the hollow, so that I should perceive whether there did be any living creature there hid, that should mayhap come out, unknown, to work us harm. Probably not have to worry about the crabs, though. Their crab spiders are super lame. If they were real crabs, they'd have pinched us right in the toes. Like a crab. But indeed I discovered nothing of any greatness. Yet I saw 3 snakes, and there were, beside, 2 scorpion creatures, as I did name them, and neither went backward from me, nor came against me, but did bide where I saw them, each in an hole of the rock. An hole of the rock. That's another one that throws me, is, because I'm not speaking with a British voice, it means I enunciate the H's. And so it puts an in front of most of them, and it makes it very difficult, because I'm not in the right brain mode to go and say, each in an hole of the rock, for that sort of thing. So occasionally I will be like, wait a minute. Technically it's correct. It is proper English to put an in front of a H word that has that immediately has a vowel right afterwards. That is correct. It just sounds strange to say things like each in an hole of the rock, because one is not accustomed to it, because nobody really cares about it anymore. And because I had seen these things, I saw that we should not do wise to sleep nigh unto the fire-hole, for the creeping things did mortally like the heat, and should be like to come upon us in our slumber, 'cause we toasty. And indeed this did but uphold my caution, that we should be well actioned, if that we chose some other part to our rest. Yet, as you shall suppose, I said naught unto the maid concerning the creeping and the poisonous things, for I did mean that she have rest and happiness the while that we did stay behind the fire-hole, and afterward I should tell her, and so she be the more ready to see the properness that we go elsewhere to our sleep. But, as you to understand, if that she not to see wisely and be still intent to the fire-hole, I should have her to obey, for surely she was mine own, and I did love her, and did mean alway to have her to safety. Now, presently, the maid was something warmed, and afterward she slipped the scrip from my shoulder, and so had food and drink very swift to my need. And we sat together, and eat and drank, and the maid very sweet and quiet, and she did begin to eat her second tablet. And truly I had knowing that she did remember in all her body that I had whipped her. And, indeed, she did be utter mine. Stuff like that makes me kind of wince. And oft as we did eat and drink, I looked this way and that, so that no creeping thing should come anigh to us. And presently, when we had made an end of our food, the maid saw that I did look about, and she then very swift to catch some of mine unease, and to stare over her shoulder. And indeed, in a little while she saw a snake go among the rocks, and she then to be very eager that we find some place that should be secure from creeping things. And we to begin then to look for such. But in the end we stayed in the hollow, for we found a little cave that did be in an upstanding rock of the hollow, and the upstanding rock was, mayhaps, a good 100 feet off. I don't know why I read it wrong, because it hurts. But in the end we stayed in the hollow, for we found a little cave that did be in an upstanding rock of the hollow, and the upstanding rock was, mayhaps, 100 good feet off from the fire, for the hollow was very great, and the cave did be a hole. See, now, it's not an hole. What? I've been bamboozled. And the cave did be an hole that was thrice my height. No, it seriously says the cave did be a hole. Just on this page, we had an hole. Just be bloody consistent, why don't you? And the cave did be a hole that was thrice my height up from the bottom rocks, and it was dry and sweet, and with no creeping thing within it, neither did there be any place to hide such therein. Making me do this to myself. Oh, boy. I would read an entire chapter of it like that, but it's like, these chapters are no joke. Like, some of these are like 50 pages long, and I will fall apart eventually. It's doable. I can do it. I can do that one more easily than I can. Oh, God. Giving me flashbacks to, The Moon is a Harsh Mistress. I'd like to reread that one, because I was not happy with how that came out, because that's written in a way that is sort of like person who is Russian, speaking pidgin. They are missing certain participles. It is very difficult to read. Sometimes it catches you unawares. This is overwordy, that underwordy, not enough word. Too few word, comrade. Too few. This more word than you can shake stick at. Holy grod. Bog. Holy bog. Boże moi. Where were we? I've interrupted myself for like the 6th time. I need to stop doing that. It's just so crazy seeing all these people here. I don't know what to do with myself. And it was dry and sweet, and with no creeping thing within it, neither did there be any place to hide such therein. If you really want me to read tomato, if you really want me to read it like this, I can read the rest of the chapter that way. It is another, golly, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20 pages almost. Yeah, it's about 20 pages worth of it, so you'll be getting the whole experience. I can't promise that I'll continue to do it that way, but I can, if I must. It's a bit of an interruptation, I suppose. Anyway, And when we were gotten into the hole, surely it did be very sweet and cosy, for the shine of the fire-hole did shine therein, and surely we had felt it a very haven, but that there was ever the fear of the land upon our hearts, and upon mine the more than upon the maid. For truly mine own did seem to trust me utter, and to seem that she feared not any evil monster, but to have surety that I had power to succour her in all ways. And truly this trust had been very sweet unto my heart, if that I had lacked somewhat of my terror for the safe home going of mine own. And we slept that night as we had done before, and shared the cloak over us, for truly the fire-hole made no great warmth unto us, yet it was less bitter in that part than in the darkness of the land. And by that we had come unto sleep, and it was 20 good hours since we last had slumber, and truly we did be very wearied, but yet came unto our rest with our spirits set anxious to hearken on danger, the while that we did sleep. And we slept 7 hours, and did know suddenly of some matter that had need to waken us. And lo, in a moment I did wake, and the maid in the same instant of time, and there was a great screaming and crying out in the night, that surely affrighted us both, yet did hurt our hearts the more, for it did be the utter cryings and terror of poor humans in the night of the land. Yet might I do not, but only wait that I learn more of the matter, for my duty was unto mine own, and I had no leave of rashness any more.
Optical antenna, you're cruel.
You really want to inflict people with that? I cannot believe. Oh, fine. We'll have a fun go of it.
Honestly, it's actually easier to read this in a British accent than it is to not do it that way. Like, my brain's like, yeah, no, it just works. The syntax is fine.
Yeah, as you do suppose, I was all shaken to go downward of the rock, and afterward to climb out from the hollow, that I should give some help unto they that did need help, but yet might I not leave the maid. And immediately there was a great roaring in one part of the night, and again another roaring in another part of the night. And lo, in a moment the roarings did be answered, and the roarings were the sounds of big and husky voices, so that it did seem that we harked to men so big as houses that did run and shout in the night. And the maid did begin to shake, and I put mine arm about her, and drew her backward into the hole, so that she did be into the shadow. And she to tremble like one that was broken in courage, for truly she had heard those sounds oft in the night, in all the long and dreadful month that she had wandered. And indeed I was all shaken in my courage, for it did be that the shouting of giants that I heard. For it did be the shouting, not that they... And indeed I was all shaken in my courage, for it did be the... There's a page break here, so just bear with me. Page breaks and line breaks are my nemesis. And indeed I was all shaken in my courage, for it did be the shouting of giants that I heard. And you do know somewhat of the utter horror and terror that did be alway in the heart that did hearken unto those monstrous voices, for you do know my tale. And there came in a moment a dreadful screaming out in the night, and the screaming did be the screaming of a young maid that doth be slain very brutal. And my heart sickened because of mine own, but my spirit did swell with a strange and utter anger, as that it should burst my body. And the maid to my side broke into an utter sobbing. And the screaming of the maid afar off in the dark did end very sudden, but in a moment there did be other screamings in divers places, and the hoarse shoutings of the great men, and the thudding of mighty feet that ran this way and that, a chase. And the cryings of the humans came nearer, and the thuddings of great feet. And in verity, in a little minute, it did seem unto me that the sounds did be right upon the hollow, and I crept forward and peered out. And I felt the night to be full of people running, and immediately there passed by the hollow a clustering of humans that ran ever, and screamed and gasped and wept, panting as they ran. And the shining of the fire hole made them plain seen and clear, and they did be both men and women, and were but in rags or utter naked, and all torn by the rocks and the bushes, and did seem, indeed, as that they had been wild things that did go by so swift and lost. One sec. It's thirsty work. And mine heart troubled me with the pain and longing that it did know, so that I had gone in a moment after those people, but that I should leave mine own and put her to peril. And even while that I felt so utter in this thing, there came a great thudding of monstrous fate. And there ran 4 great men out of the night, and went past the hollow very quick. And 3 did be dull-coloured, and seeming much haired and brutish. And the other did be an horrid white, and livid blotched, so that it did seem to my spirit that there went by a thing that did be a very man-monster, filled of unwholesome life. And surely they did be gone out from the shine of the fire in one moment, as we do say, and again into the night out to their dreadful chasing. And when the thudding of their feet had gone a long way off over the land, I heard them bellowing, and afterward a far-away screaming that did have a death note in it. And I knew that those dreadful brute men did be taken alive from some poor wild humans, and afterward there did be the silence again. And surely it did come to me with a fierce impatience of sorrow that those people did be without spirit of courage, else had they turned them upon the giants, and slain them with their hands, even if that all had died to compass that slaying. For truly they should all die anywise by the giant men, and they had died then with somewhat to comfort their hate. And as I do know, the peoples of the Lesser Redoubt had long been born of parents that were starved of the earth current through 100,000 years and more, and because of this thing they did surely lack somewhat in all ways. Yet was Naani otherwise, but this not to prove aught, save the rule, as we do say. Now, sudden, as I stooped very hushed and troubled in the mouth of the little cave, I knew that mine own sobbed dryly in the back part of the cave. And I had gone to comfort her, but that in the same moment I saw a naked maid run very swift over the edge of the hollow, and did look over her shoulder as she ran. And she came to the bottom, and crept in under a ledge of rock that did be in that place, and she did seem utter worn, and gone of spirit and desperate. And I perceived in that same instant why that she did go stealthy and swift in that fashion, and to cower as for her very life, for there came a squat, haired man, so broad as a bullock, who did come silent down into the hollow, looking this way and that, even as a wild beast doth peer, very sudden. Oh, it's an action scene, back to Scottish. And the squat man had instant knowing of the place where the maid did be, and ran in upon her with no sound. And I paused not, but leaped all the great way unto the bottom of the hollow, which did be, mayhaps, 20 good feet and more, for mine anger was upon me, and I did mean that I save that one, though I did be but powerless to give succour unto those others. And I fell strong upon my feet, and had no harm of my limbs, for all that the leap did be so high. And in that moment, before I had time to save the maid, the squat man ripped her, and she, R.I.P.T., ripped her, and she cried out once with a very dreadful scream, and was suddenly dead in the hands of the brute man. And my heart made my blood to burn with wrath in mine eyes, so that I had scarce power in that instant to see the squat man as I ran upon him. And the roar of the discourse filled all the hollow as I made it to spin, as that it did rage with an anger and to be the glut of the man. And the man came round upon me, and thought, mayhaps, to deal with me, as it had dealt with that poor maid, but not all that wise, as you must know. And I swung the discourse, and it did seem to sing and to cry eager in my hands. And I smote at the squat man, even as it did leap silent upon me, as a tiger doth leap, making no sound. But I gat not home the blow, for the man dropped sudden down upon the hands, and the blow went overwards, and the brute man caught me by the legs to trip me. No, to rip me, I had it right the first time. To rip me, and I cut quick with the discus, and it did have but one monstrous talon left unto it. And immediately it cast me with the other, half across the hollow, and I fell with mine armour clanging mightily, and the discus did ring like a bell. And by the graciousness of all good things, I was harmed not by that monster throw, but was to my feet in one instant, and had not loosed the discus from my hand. And the beast man did be upon me with 2 quick boundings, and I stood up to the man, and it made no sound or cry as it came at me, and there did a great froth of brute anger and intent come from the mouth of it, and the teeth came down on each side of the mouth very great and sharp. And I leaped and smote so that my blow should come the more speedy, and the discus took away the head and the shoulder of the squat man, and the dead thing knocked me backward with the spring that it had made, but it harmed me not greatly. Yet afterward I did know how sore and bruised I did be in all my body and being, and I came back very swift against the man, but it did be truly dead and greatly horrid. Where's the next now? Jeez, it's all ands. So one of the ways I'm measuring out when to take drinks and to take pauses, tactical pauses, is he has sort of a patternistic way of writing where each, I'd say paragraph, but often they're an entire run-on sentence, will start with and, sometimes yet, and then a now. And I'm using nows as a, this would be a paragraph break or something. But we don't have one of those for another page and a half. So we're going to keep going the way we were going. And then we'll switch voices. And I went from the dead monster, and did go, all heart shaken, unto the dead maid. And I took the torn body of the maid, very sorrowful, and cast it into the fire hole. And I turned me then that I should look unto the cave, that I should know that all did be well with mine own, and whether she did have seen the horror, or be gone into a swoon. And lo, mine own did run toward me, and she had in her hand my belt knife, which I did give her before that time to be a weapon for her defence. And I perceived that she had come to be mine aid, if that I did need such. And she did be utter pale, yet very steadfast, and not seeming to tremble. And I made to take her from that place, but she went beyond me, and looked at the monstrous bulk of the squat man, and was very silent. And she came back unto me, and still so silent. And she stood before me, and said no word, but my heart knew what she did be thinking. For I am not foolish, to have lacked to know what did be in her heart, though mine effort had not shown itself that way unto me before that moment. And I had no pretending of modesty, but received with gladness and a strangeness of humbleness the honour that her eyes did give to me. For indeed she did be so, that she might not give word to her joy of me, and her glad respecting, the which is so wondrous good unto the heart of all men that do be loving of a dear and honest maid. And she said nothing, neither then nor afterward. But I did be honoured all my life after, when that I did any time mind me of the way that mine own looked upward at me in those moments. And afterward she did need and allow herself to come unto mine arms, that I hold her from the trembling of heart which did come to her, after that there did be no need for courage, for surely we had both seen a dreadful thing, and there was a great horror upon us. And I climbed upward to the little cave, and I climbed upward again to the little cave, and did help Naani. And when we were come there again, we did rest a while. I'm losing it. Bear with me. Yes, let's gulp noisily. My apologies. I'm sorry you had to hear that. And I climbed upward again to that little cave, and did help Naani. And when we were come there again, we did rest a while. And presently we ate, each of us, 2 of the little tablets, and drank some of the water. And indeed, we were both utter thirsty. And in about an hour after that we had hearkened very keen a time, oh my gosh, and in about an hour after that we had harked very keen a time, okay. And in about an hour after that we had harked very keen a time, we came downward again from the cave, and had our gear with us, and we came up out of the hollow, and set forward with great caution unto the olden seabed. And we came there in 2 long hours, for we went very slow with constant harkings, for fear of the monstrous men was upon us. But there came no harm anigh, neither did we perceive any disturbance in the night of the land. And we went down an hour into the olden seabed, and did go now the more swift, for our fear was something eased from us, because that we had come away from that place, where we had perceived so great and dread and hunting. Oh boy. That we had come away from that place where we had perceived so great and dread and hunting. But yet how we all care about us, for the giants surely to be everywhere in that land. But yet, as I do think, they do roam more often nigh to the fire holes, for the humans did surely wander in such parts, that they have warmth of the fires. And after we had gone downward an hour into the seabed, we turned... Okay, that made me jump. I don't know why they decided to start there. I think that's the ambulance with its weird siren. Okay, sorry about that. Where were we? And we went down an hour into the olden seabed, and did go now the more swift, for our fear was something eased from us, because that we had come away from that place where we had perceived so great and dread and hunt. Oh, we already did that. And after we had gone downward an hour into the seabed, we turned somewhat unto the southwest, and went for 12 great hours, and did never be any huge space from the shore, for it did run that way, as you do know. And I made to steer by the shinings of the land, and with advices from mine own. And in the end of the 12th hour I did count our distance, making that we did walk somewhat of a certain speed, and by the tellings of the maid we did be surely come beyond the place of the land where the poison gas did lie. And by this it did be something after 17 hours since we did sleep, and surely we did be very ready to have rest, for we had gone forward strongly and with anxiousness, and truly my hearts did be come upon me, so that my whole body did ache, for the quick fight had been bitter, and I had been thrown very hard and brutal, and indeed it was wondrous that I had not been all smashed, only that the armour did save me. And this doth show truly how hard and strong I did be, and that Naani did speak upon this, and was oft a wonder, and at that time did beg me that I make some rest to cure my hurts, for she had not conceived that a man did grow so strong and hardy, and in verity the men of the lesser redoubt did be soft made and lacking of grimness, as I did perceive, both through my reason and from her tellings. For they did lack the strong life that doth breed where is the beat of the earth current, as we to have in the mighty pyramid. And this thing I have said somewise before this time. Oh my God, where's the nearest now? I'm dying here. And because that we did be so wearied, I said unto Naani that we find a place for our slumber, and she very willing, as I have shown, and to counsel me likewise. Yet did we search about in that gloom for a great hour more, and found no cave or hole to give us a safe refuge for our sleep. And when that we could not find such, I told Naani that we should put the boulders together somewhat, and so have them about us, that we be greatly hid. And, in truth, even as I began to tell her my plan, she did have the same words in her mouth, so that we caught our little fingers there in the dark of that grim land at the end of the world, even as she and I had done oft in the early years, before that eternity, when that she did be Merdath the Beautiful. And we did both be silent, and after that we had... Oh, okay. Sometimes I lose the intent. And we did both be silent, and after that we had wished very solemn and earnest, we said each a name, even as lad and maid shall do in this age, and so to laughter, and kissed one the other. And truly, the world doth seem not to alter in the heart, as you shall think. And this was what I did find. And we set to, and gathered together the boulders which did be very plentiful in that part. And she carry those that did be thin and flat, and I to roll those that did be great and round. And I made a place that did be long and narrow, and afterward I set the flat stones round the sides, so that there be no little hole by which any creeping thing should come inward to sting us in our sleep. And afterward we got inside, and surely it did be very cosy, as we do say, but yet not so secure as I did wish, only that I could not shift the plan aught better. And indeed, it should keep off from us any small thing, and should be like to save us from any monstrous brute treading upon us. But otherwise, it did be but a poor affair. Now we eat 2 of the tablets each, and drank some of the water, even as we had done in the 6th and the 12th hours, and afterward we shared the cloak for our slumber, and we kissed very sedate and loving, and charged our spirits that we wake, if that any horrid thing should come anigh to us in our sleep, and afterward we did be gone very swift to slumbering, and suffered no harm. And I waked 7 hours after, and surely I did ache very bitter, as I did move my body, for the bruisings did be gotten hold of me. And I slipped away from the maid, very gentle, for I had mind that she sleep a while more, as I did mean that we make a great journey that day. And after I had harked a while, and perceived that there was no evil thing anigh, I went outward of the stones. And I walked 2 and 4. 2 and 4? And it's F-O-R-E, so I don't think it's just a misspelling of fro. So I'm going to go with, and I walked 2 and 4, and moved mine arms, that I be eased somewhat of the stiffness and ache. But surely it did seem that many hours must go, ere I should make any speed of travel, for I did be all clumsy and slow, and nigh to groan with the pain of going, and aught that I did. And I minded me that I should do somewhat to ease this thing, lest that I cause us both to come to an harm by staying over long in that land. And I went back into the stones, and gat an ointment from the pouch that I did carry, and surely the maid did yet sleep. And I went outward of the stones again, and stripped off the armour, and all my garments, and I rubbed my body with the ointment, and surely the pain did be so that I groaned at this time and that, but yet I must rub good and strong, so that I die not of the cold of the land, and beside I was greatly anxious to cure myself. And sudden I did rub very wrong and savage, and heeding so well as I might that I groan not, the maid did speak close beside me. And indeed she could see me but dimly, and had waked sudden to hear my groaning, and I was not to her side. And immediately she had thought that some evil thing harmed me, and was come in an instant that she be with me. And she cared not that I did be naked, but was utter in anger that I strove to do this thing alone, and with none to aid me, and all uncovered to the chill of the land. And she ran back into the stones, and brought the cloak, and put it about me, and was so angered that she stamped, and had no impudence, but rather as that she did be minded to have tears. And she sent me back into the shelterings of the stone, and into the sheltering singular, and she sent me back into the sheltering of the stones, and gathered mine armour, and brought these things after me. But the discourse I took in my hand. And she took the pot of the ointment from me, and made me to lie, and she rubbed me very strong and tender, and kept me warm with the cloak, and surely she was a wise and lovely maid, and utter mine own. And in the end she asked me how I was, and I said that I did be different, and she hurried me that I be clothed very quick, for she did be sore afraid that I should come to a chill. And when I was gotten again into mine armour, she came to me, and showed me where I did lack wisdom, and spoke very straightly and gentle and serious, and afterward kissed me, and gave me my tablets, and to sit beside me. And we eat and drank, and I with a new lovingness unto mine own, and she somewhat as that she did mother me, but when I put mine arm about her, she did be only a maid. And we did be thus, but with little talk and a great content. And afterward we gat our gear together, and went from that little refuge that we had made, and in a while we did go upward out of the olden sea-bed. And when we were come again to the top of the shore, the which we did in 2 good hours, I looked over the land a time with mine own eye to me, and I perceived that the great red fire-pit of the giants did be no mighty way off unto the south and west, and surely in a little moment we saw that there went monstrous figures against the shine of the mighty fire-pit, and we stooped unto the earth, for it did seem that the light did be like to show us standing there, though truly we did be afar off, as you perceive. Yet mayhaps you do share with us the utter horror and distress that those horrid men did cast about the heart, and so have a kindly understanding of our fear. And over all the land, in this place and that, there did be the small shining of little fire-holes and pits, that did be alway red, save in that part where the poison gas did lie, the which we had now come safe past. And beyond the fire-holes was the great shine that lay from the west unto the north of all that land. And in verity we did need that we steer so that we could not come not And in verity we did need that we steer so that we come not anigh to it, neither unto the great red fire-pit of the giants, neither unto the low volcanoes which are beyond the great red fire-pit, as you do know, and some ways unto the mouth of the upward gorge. And the way of our journey was between the west and the southwest of that land, and to be made with cunning and wisdom, that we come clear of all unseemly danger unto mine own. And I asked her concerning this thing and that of the land, and surely she told me so much of the terror that I was half in a wonder that I did live in the end to come unto her. And it was because of the things that she set out to me that I perceived how we must come no wiser nigh to the low volcanoes that were upon this side of the mouth of the upward gorge, for it had been known alway in the lesser redoubt that there went very horrid men in that part that did be called wolf-men, but whether there did be any such thing in that age she had no knowing, for she told me the things that did be set down in the records and the histories, and truly no man of the lesser redoubt had found heart in 1,000 great years to make a journeying through the land, for the desire of glad and dreadful adventuring, such as our young men did be oft set to, though it was not all such that went. And because there did be no adventuring for so monstrous a space of years, there was no certain new knowledge of that land of that age. And this thing is plain to you, and needing not of many words, which do so irk me. And Naani set out to me how that the shine was conceived to be a land where evil did live forever, and whence came all those forces of evil that did work upon the lesser refuge. And afterward she did quiet, so that presently I perceived that she did weep to herself, because that her memory was all new stirred by my questionings. And I took her very gentle into mine arms, as we did be there kneeled upon the earth. And after that time I asked her no question, save as it did be needful to our health and life. Yet oft did she tell me this thing and that of her knowledge, to be for mine help and guiding. Now we went forward, going a space toward the northwest, so that we come the more clear of the place where did be the great red fire-pit of the giants. And we journeyed with a care alway that we show not ourselves over plain unto the light that shone over the land from the great pit, and oft we did creep a while over this stark place and that, and went nimbly amid the bushes that grew oft in great parts. And we made 6 hours this way, and did then have pause, that we eat and drink, and truly it was 9 hours since first I did wake, yet had we made no pausing, because that we were so set to our journeying to come clear of the place where did be the giants. And after that we had eat and drunk, we went onward again, and made now unto the southwest, for we did heed that we go no more unto the northwest, because that should bring us over near to the shine. And in the 14th hour of that day's travel, we came to a part where the land dipped downward into a broad valley, and surely it did be very dark down there, and did be seeming shallow, yet truly of a great deepness. But we went that way, because that it did be a weary long journey to go around the place where the valley did be. And the valley had a different darkness from the gloom that went alway in the olden seabed, for the gloom of the seabed did be ever of a greyness, but the gloom of this valley had a greater dark within it. Yet did the air seem more clear. And we went downward 3 hours into the valley, and stopped then that we eat and drink. And truly I had not paused then, but that mine own did insist, for our methods did be like, else to go all adrift, and we to be lacking of proper strength. And this was wisdom of the maid, but I to be a little irked like and restless, and this mayhap because that my blood did itch me, because that it did be so full of the poison of my bruises. And it was gone now of 17 hours since last we did sleep, but yet did we be ready to go forward, that we come so quick as maybe out of the dark of that valley, for there did seem nowheres any fire hole to make a light, only that in this place and that there did be a little blue shining, as that there burned a strange gas in this part or that. Now, in 2 hours after the time that we did eat, we stopped, both of us, very sudden, for there did be some vague and curious sound in the night. And we went very swift to the earth, that we be hid, and harked. But we did hear nothing. And in a while we to go onward again, yet there did be an unease upon our spirits, for our spirits did perceive something afar off in the night, but yet had we no surety in this matter. And we went forward through a great hour more, and did pass in that time 2 places where the blue shining did be, and truly it seemed that a low gas hung to the earth in this part and that, and made a slow burning, having neither noise nor spurtings, but slow as that it did smoulder, and be all to shine and luminous. And oft there did be a strong smelling of a bitter gas, very horrid in the throat. And in the end of another hour, while that we were a space off from one of those gas shinings, there went past us at a distance, as it did seem, people running in the night, as that they be lost spirits, yet with a rustling very soft, so that they did be like to be barefoot. And I thought mayhap that these did be some of the peoples of the lesser pyramid, yet did they be only as that shadows went among the blue shinings. And I pondered a moment whether that I send my voice over the valley to question what they might be, but yet had caution, and harked through the utter silence of the night, for I had no surety of aught. And surely in that moment that we harked very keen, there did be a sound afar off in the night of the land, and it was as that we had heard the sound before. And in verity our spirits had perceived the sound those 2 hours back, and now our bodies did wot, and perceived that we had known it subtly before that moment. And the sound was as that something went spinning in the night. And a very great terror came upon the maid, for she did know the sound, and the sound was that which did show that one of the great evil forces of the land did approach, and the sound had been known alway in the lesser refuge to show this thing. And indeed mine own spirit had been half to know that a power of evil did come through the night, but yet was the assurance very terrible, for how should I protect mine own? And the spinning came toward us, and was presently in the valley, and it came swiftly across the dark of the valley. And my heart was all broken within me, because that there had been happiness with us, but a little time gone, and now there did be our death anigh. And mine own gave me the knife that I had given her, meaning that I slay her in that last moment. For she did heed even in that moment that she be not gashed horridly by the terror of the discourse. And I took the knife, and I kissed not mine own, but stood there very shaken and desperate, and gripped her fast unto me, scarce heeding the hardness of my gripe. And alway I looked unto the way of the coming of the sound, and presently did unbear my wrist where the capsule did be. And the sound of the thing spinning came anigh across the valley, and my heart did dull, and my spirit go black with my desperateness, because that this thing must be, and because that I could nowhere see hope that I should save mine own. And of a sudden the maid put up her arms and pulled me downward, and kissed me once on the lips, but I wot not whether I kissed her, for I did burn with despair, and was all adrift in my being. Yet was there a sharp comfort that mine own dying did be so nigh. And the maid stood gently against me, so that she did be convenient unto my hand. And afterward I remembered this thing, and do you pray? Oh gosh. And afterward I remembered this thing, and do you pray that you be never to have such a matter on your hearts? But indeed there was a wonder in this thing, beside the horror, so that my memory doth be alway knowing of this wonder, and mayhap you do see with me, and love mine own also in your hearts. And in the moment that the maid stood thus, as I have told, I perceived sudden that there did be a little glowing in the night, and the glowing was pale and horrid. And there was no more any sound of the spinning, only there did be, as it were, the trunk of a great tree that did show in the glowing, and the trunk of the tree came toward us across the darkness. And I turned the maid from the tree, and she did flutter a little in my hands, as I did know, scarce knowing, for she perceived that she did be going to die in that moment. And I had my body thus between the evil thing and the maid. And lo, the tree came no more anigh to us, but went backward, and the pale glowing did fade, and the tree no more to be seen.
So, as a brief aside, as a product of my upbringing, the only thing I can think of when I think of giant tree trunk shaped thing in the mist and a spinning noise is, of course, Gamera, the giant fire-breathing turtle, giant monster from all those movies back in the halcyon days of yore. And I think we all know that Gamera would never injure people if he didn't have to. He's a good boy. Alternatively, it's an ambulatory, turbo-spooky evil tree that literally moves by spinning, which is infinitely more horrifying. So, not Gamera. Thank goodness. And I cried unto the maid very husky that we did live, for that the evil power was gone off from us. But she answered not, and did be heavy against me. And I held her, and looked alway about us, lest the tree come in upon the other side. And as I looked this way and that, I saw not, and afterward, in a moment, I searched the night above, lest that the thing come from above. And behold, I saw that there abode over us a clear light, as it were a clear burning circle, above us in the night. And my heart did leap with an holy joy and an utter great thankfulness, and I was no more in fear of the tree, for in verity there fought for our souls one of those sweet powers of goodness that did strive ever to stand between the forces of evil and the spirit of man. And this matter have I shown to you before this time. And concerning this holy defence, I have thought that it should not, mayhap, to have had so strong a power to save us, if that we had not shown an over weakness and fear, but because that we did rather stand so well as we might make battle of escape from so dire a destruction. And surely this doth seem but a sane thinking unto me, but yet without proof, and to be said to you only as the shapings of my thoughts. And this the chief end of that happening, and that the holy circle did truly deliver us, and burn through 12 great hours above us. And by this do I know that the evil power hovered anigh to destroy us all that while. For indeed it doth not be proper of reason to suppose that such an utter wondrous thing did be needlessly over us, save to be a shield of great and lovely force against a waiting evil thing. And surely you do see this wise with me? And truly, so soon as my spirit and reason perceived that we did be no more to suffer from the evil thing, I remembered that I did know that mine own had swooned.
And in verity, you shall mind how that she did face her death so utter sweet and brave, and had given no cry, but made quietly to help me in that dreadful moment, and did stand brave and gentle to the stroke. And so fell into a swoon, as you have seen, because that she did suffer 100 deaths as she did stand so brave, waiting to be slain, for the blow did be so long delayed, yet to come in any moment. And I gat her to come to under her life again, and I set the lovely tale very swift to ease her, and surely with love and warmth, and kissed her with a great joy. And I showed how I did honour her for her good courage. And she to weep a little, with the ease come so sudden upon her, and afterward to kiss me upon the lips 100 times, and to need that she be very safe in mine arms, because that I had meant that I do so dread an office to her. And surely I do wonder whether you perceive all that did be then in her heart. And the holy light that did be over us she did watch with a sweetness of awe, and rest did come more great upon her in the heart, as she did learn how sure was the seeming of that lovely power to deliver us. And presently we made forward again in the valley, and it did go steadfast, and newly loving each to the other, and so through 12 great and body-weary hours. But our hearts could never be done singing within us, nor our hands to cease from the hands of the other, because that we did so crave each unto the beloved. They're holding hands, so lewd. And in the 9th hour, a monstrous way off in the dark of the valley, there did seem as that there went a far and dreadful screaming in the night. And it did be that as that our spirits perceived the sound of something spinning in the night, yet faint and a great way off. But yet we had no surety, that we truly did hear the sound of the spinning, only that we be so shaken in the heart, for truly there was some horror done unto humans, downward in the mighty darkness of the valley. And to think upon the sound of the spinning was to be in a shaking trouble of the spirit, and to bless the quiet and holy light that went above us in all that time, and to ache only that it should stay to be to our protecting. I'm going to try that all over again. And to think upon the sound of the spinning was to be in a shaking trouble of the spirit, and to bless the quiet and holy light that went above us in all that time, and to ache only that it should stay to be to our protecting. And surely it did be plain that there were the signs of the great forces in that land. And 3 hours after the time when we did hear the far-off screaming, we were come up over the edge of the valley, and did be once more unto such light as did be general in the land, and truly it did seem a wondrous lightness after so utter a dark. And we did be all exhaust, and mine own drew her feet so weary, that it was as she must go no more, until we did rest, for indeed it was 33 hours since the last we had slept. And a bitter trouble and work there had been in that space, as you do know. Now we had eat some of the tablets a few hours back, and as we did walk, and had drunk some of the water, but had made no rest, for we did crave only that we come free of that valley. And now it was needful that we rest, if but a little time. And I minded that we find some place where I should have a hot pool, that I be able to bathe Naani's feet. I see. It's feet again. It's feet o'clock. Look at the time, and surely we came in a while to a hollow place, and there did be 2 dull-burning fire-holes in this place, and a hot bubbling spring, the which did seem to be a rare thing in that land, so that we were the more fortunate to perceive it. And I made mine own to sit with her feet in the hot spring, for it was not over-hot, and did seem pretty natural to my taste, as I did prove in the first. And also I did search about the hollow, lest there be any harmful creatures near by, and this you will have truly supposed, because you do know the methods of my journeying. But yet did I not have so much care as be proper, for I was so dull in the mind, by reason of my weariness. But indeed there came not to work us any harm, and so we came to no suffering, through mine aches and dullness. And I sat beside the maid, and made her to eat a tablet, and saw that the cloak did be nice about her, and her head to rest against my knee, and I laid the palm of my hand to be as a pillow, because of the armour, to ease the hardness. And I eat with the maid, and we both drank after, and so there came back somewhat of our strength. Then I took the maid's little feet, and rubbed a portion of the ointment from the pot all about them, very gentle and constant. And so did they be anew rested and eased, and she presently fit again to the journey, for I was strong set that we go quickly hence out of that land, and stay no more there to sleep, lest we come unto destruction. And when we had rested an hour, I put the shoes again upon the maid, and made them secure, so gat my gear about me, and made to the journey. And lo, as we did leave the hollow, I looked upward unto the holy light, and behold, it was gone from us, and by this thing I suppose that we had come free of instant danger, but yet did there be to me a seeming of nakedness and unprotection, as you must perceive. And because that the light was vanished, I was the more set that we come speedy out of the land. And we went forward at a strong speed, and had the great red fire pit of the giants to our rear unto the left, and a mighty way off in the night, But yet I did wish it the further. And before us was a small ridging up of the dark land, as I did judge, because that our view of the lights and the shinings was bounded. And to our left at a great way the low volcanoes, and somewhat to our right, across all that part of the land, went the cold and horrid glare of the shine. Now, in a little while, I felt that the ground did be sloped upward before us a little, and by this thing I saw that I had known aright, page break. Now, in a little while, I felt that the ground did be sloped upward before us a little, and by this thing I saw that I had known aright, for that there did be a ridge that hid the land somewise over unto that part where I looked to find the mouth of the upward gorge. And we went up this slope at a strong pace, because that I was so eager that I find where we did be in nearness unto the mouth of the upward gorge. And surely I was something forgetful in mine eagerness, and came somewhat ahead of mine own, who did make to hide from me that she did begin to lag, because that her new strength was near gone from her. And sudden there did be a very dreadful cry to my back, and I came round in one instant, so quick as a light doth flash, for it was the voice of mine own, and all my being did suddenly burn with fear that kindled through me in a moment of thought. And lo, mine own did struggle terribly with a yellow thing which I perceived to be a man with 4 arms, and the man had 2 arms about the maid, and with 2 did make to choke her unto death, for she cried out no more. And I came unto the man with a quick leaping, and stopped not to pluck the discos from my hip, and surely I did be very strong, and mine anger and rage to make me monstrous, for I caught the 2 upper arms of the man and brought them backwards in an instant, so fierce and savage, and so wrenched upon them, that I brake them in the shoulders of the man. And the man roared and shrieked, even as a wild and dreadful beast should cry out, and came round upon me with the 2 lower arms. And surely it was a mighty and brutish thing, and so broad and bulked as an ox. And the lower arms were huge and greatly haired, and the fingers on the hands did have the nails grown into horrid talons, as that they should grip very bitter. And it caught me by the thighs to rip me upward, as I did fear. But yet this did not be the intent of the man, for in a moment it caught me round the body, and on the instant I gat the man by the great throat, and the throat did be haired, and so great as the neck of a bull. And I strove with mine armoured hands that I choke the man, and surely I made it to suffer a great trouble, yet I could not harm it in the life. And so I did be an horrid minute, and fought with the beast, with no more than the strength of my body, and it was as that an human went with his hands to slay a monster so strong as an horse. And the breath of the man-beast came at me, and did sicken me, and I held the face off from me, for I had died with horror, if that it had come more anigh, and surely the mouth of the man was small and shaped so that I knew that it did never eat of aught that it did slay, but to drink as a vampire. And in truth I did mean that I chop the man to pieces, if that I have chance to the discourse. And I did sway this way and that, as we did struggle, and surely it was as that the man had never made to use the lower arms, save to hold unto prey, the while that it did use the upper arms to strangle, as I do think. For all that weary minute of the fight, the man made naught to loose from me, that it should tear my hands from their grip to the throat, but made vain waggings with the arms that I brake, as that it would use these to the attack, but surely they had no more power to do hurt. And sudden it put forth an utter power about my body, so that mine armour did be like to crack, and truly I had died in a moment, but for the strongness of the armour. And the man hugged me thus for an horrid time, the while that I did hold off from me the brutish face, and gripped very savage into the haired throat. And lo, the creature did work slow in the brain, and in the end loosed from me, abrupt, and went back with a leap, so that my hands did be ripped from the throat of the beast. And in one instant it did be right back unto me, and gave me no moment to free the discus. But I made anew to fight, and shaped as I had learned in the exercises of mine upbringing, for truly I had been alway deep in practice of such matters. And I slipped from the great hands of the man, as it did try to take me by the head, and I hit the man with mine armoured fist, and put a great power and skill to the blow. And I went instant to the side with a swift stepping, and evaded the man, and I smote the man again, and took him very savage in the neck, but all the while grown very cold and brutal and cruel, for I was set to the slaying. And the man-beast came round on me, and lo, I slipped the gripe of the great hands. And my body and my legs and mine arms did work together unto that last blow, so that I did hit so hard as a great hammer. And I gat the beast in the throat, and the beast went backward to the earth, even as it did think to hold me. And lo, in a moment I was free, and I plucked forth the discos from my hip. And the yellow beast-man grunted upon the ground, and it rose up again to come at me, and it stood and did grunt, and did seem as that it was gone mazed, for it did make other sounds and an horrid screeching, so that truly by the way of it I conceived that it cried out unknown and half-shapen words at me. And in a moment it came again at me, but I cut the head from the beast-man, that was in verity an horrid monster, and the man died, and was quiet upon the earth. And, truly, in that moment the distress of mine efforts and mine utter tiredness and the ache of the bruises took me, so that I do surely think I rocked as I stood, but yet was my head strong to think, and my heart set in anxiousness, for I wotted not how great an hurt had been done upon mine own. And I ran to her, and I came to where she did be upon the ground, and surely she was all huddled, and had her hands very piteous to her throat, that did be so pretty. And it did shake me in that moment that she was truly slain, for she was so utter still, and as that she did be broken unto death. And I took her hands from her throat, and surely it did be a little torn, yet not to be much, or so that it should loose her of her dear life. And I strove that I steady the trembling of my hands, and I gat free of mine armoured gloves, and I made that I feel whether her throat did be deadly hurt. And in verity it seemed not so, only that my hands did so shake, because that I was so frightened for mine own, and because that I was but new come from the battle, and because of this I had not power of touch to assure me. I made then that I quieted my breath, which did yet come very full and laboured, and I put mine ear above the heart of the maid, and lo, her heart did beat, and the horridness of my fear went from me in a moment. And I had the scrip from my back very speedy, and some of the water to fizz, and I dashed the water upon her face, upon her throat, and surely there did be a little quivering and an answering of her body. And I strove with her for a little while more, and she came unto her life again. And in the first she was all alack, as you may think, and immediately she began that she remembered, and she then to shake. And I told her how that the four-armed man was surely dead, and could harm her no more, and she then to weep, because that she had been put to such shock and horror, and held by so brutish a thing. But I took her into mine arms, and so she did come presently to an ease, and I perceived in all my being that she was as a little ship that doth lie in harbour, for she did cling and nestle unto me, and did be safe with me in all her heart and body and belief. And surely she was mine own, and I to have glory in that knowing. And presently I put her from mine arms to lie, yet so that she might not perceive the body of the yellow beast-man. And I made clean the discos from her sight, and afterward I put on the scrip, and I took the maid to mine arms again, and had the discos in my hand beside her. And she made protest that she should truly walk, for that I was all a-weary, and she come to her strength again. And indeed I carried her a certain way, and did then put her down to her feet, and truly her knees did so tremble that she had not stood, let be to walk. Oh, okay. And indeed I carried her a certain way, and did then put her down to her feet, and truly her knees did so tremble that she had not stood, let be to walk. And I caught her up again, and I kissed her, and I told her that I did be surely her master, in verity, and she mine own baby slave. What? And truly you shall not laugh upon me, for I was so human as any, and a man doth talk this way with his maid.
Ahem. Master and baby slave. Yep. Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not so much that. Maybe not. I'm going to say, no.
And she did be quiet and sweet, and to obey wisely, for she was gone very weak. And this wise we did go, and I to say loving words, in the first, but afterward I did heed more of my going, now that she was something eased and at rest within mine arms. And I did peer everywhere about, lest that some other evil thing come outward of the bushes, to have at us ere I did wear. And truly the bushes grew here and there in that place, very plentiful, in great clumpings. And presently I was come to the top part of the ridge, and lo, a great gladness took me, and some amazement, for there did be the lights that did be in the mouth of the upward gorge, and they did show me that I was come anigh to that place. Yet had I feared that we were surely a dozen great miles off, and now I to learn that we did be scarce of 2 or maybe 3, as I did judge. And I told this thing to the maid, and she rejoiced in mine arms, with a deep and quiet thankfulness. And I set forward then at so good a pace as I might, and I was come into the mouth part of the upward gorge in about an hour, and surely I did be very weary, for it was beyond 36 hours that we had gone since last we did sleep, and there had been sore labour and terror in our share in that time, as I have told. And I turned in the mouth of the gorge, and told mine own, very gentle, that we did take our last look upon that land. And she asked that I put her down to her feet, and I put her down. And therewith we stood in that place, and mine arm about her, and so did I support the maid, the while that she looked silent over the dark of the land. And presently she asked me in a very hushed voice whether that I knew where the lesser pyramid did be in all that darkness, for she was all adrift of her bearings, and was as a stranger, because that she had never looked upon the land from that place before then. And I showed her where I thought the pyramid to stand hid in the everlasting night, and she nodded, very quiet, as that she did think that wise also. And so a time did pass, and I knew that Naani said goodbye forever unto all that she had known of the world in all her life, and she did be whispering a goodbye in her soul unto her dead. And I was very hushed and deeply sorrowful for the maid, and did understand. For in verity there should no other human look upon that land of terror through all the quiet of eternity. And the maid did lose all her young life into that blackness, and the father that was her father, and the grave of her mother, and the friends of all her years. And there went death in the land, even then, after all those that did live. And mine own shook a little within mine arm, so that I knew she strove that she be brave, to weep not. But afterward she made not to cease from her tears, and truly I was there, to be her understanding. And she did be sweet and natural ever with me, for she was mine own, and did be hourly the more so. And presently I moved a little, to sign that we go downward of the gorge, and she stayed me one moment, that she look once more over all that land. And afterward she submitted, and turned with me, and did break into very bitter sobbing as she did go stumbling beside me, for the sorrow of memory did fill her, and she was truly a very lonesome maid in that moment, and had come through much dreadfulness. And in a minute I stooped and lifted her, and she wept in mine arms against mine armour, and I very silent and tender with her, and carried her downward of the gorge for a great hour more. And presently she was grown calm, and I knew that she slept in mine arms. And in this wise we made farewell of that dark land, and left it unto eternity. And that is where we will call it for this week. We still have quite a bit of book to go, at least 3 installments probably. 3 installments I think is safe. That should be it. At some point I'll have to get around to doing some of the fan-made or not made by William Hope Hodgson side material. There's some cool side stories that are adjacent to this that are pretty neat. I've only read a couple of them. I need to read a few more. Before we go, I will do one of the last sentences they had here, which is bracketed as though it were a paragraph. Has almost every part of the punctuation buffalo. So I'm just going to read it aloud with punctuation mentioned. And presently, comma, I moved a little, comma, to sign that we go down. Okay, we'll take it from the top. And presently, comma, I moved a little, comma, to sign that we go downward of the gorge, semicolon. And she stayed me one moment, comma, that she look once more over all that land, semicolon. And afterward, comma, she submitted, comma, and turned with me, comma, and did break into very bitter sobbing as she did go stumbling beside me, semicolon. For the sorrow of memory did fill her, semicolon. And she was truly a very lonesome maid in that moment, comma, and had come through much dreadfulness, period. Just so you know what I'm up against, and you appreciate me all the more.
As I am your baby slave and you are my master. Because that's certainly a nickname for your loved ones. I'm not sure that would have been okay even back then, and at least he had the common decency to be like, yeah, no, that sounds pretty weird, actually, now that I think of it. But, we have baby names for each other, or, lovey-dovey names for each other, and so sometimes those are weird. I'm like, yeah, but master and baby slave? Maybe if you're really into roleplay, I don't know about all that. Oh yeah, this next chapter is a pretty hefty one. Actually, it's not as bad as some of them. But that'll take us long enough to get through, considering it's... Oh yeah. It'll be a little shorter than this week. But not by a whole lot. Anyway, so that is our solid chunk of the Nightland for this week. I hope people enjoyed. We had quite a few people tuned in. I hope you dug it. I try. To anyone listening to this after the fact and wondering, hey, why would you change your voice like that every like couple pages? For giggles. because I can and people asked. You too can experience this if you tune in live. You don't have to, though. These aren't monetized. I don't ever plan on monetizing them, as I've yapped before. So it's hobby territory. It's me having fun, enjoying myself. So going forward, next week should be fine. The week after might not. I don't know yet, and I won't know until it's basically on top of me, unfortunately. This next month after next week is going to be dicey for various reasons. So I will try to know ahead of time if things aren't going to pan out, but I might not know until they are upon me. So I'll try to keep people in the loop. But next week should be a lock. Next week should be fine. Normal schedule, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Not an issue. After that is where things get possibly problematic. Anyway, with that, thank you to everyone who's tuned in. Oh my god, it is getting way too late in the year. I feel like I'm living in the Nightland. The sun is setting already. Already! It's starting to set in a big way. I can tell. I mean, it's overcast as well, which doesn't help. It's not that overcast. Anyway. Thanks to everyone who tuned in. I appreciate you. Appreciates y'all. This stuff's a pleasure as always. After we get done the Nightland, we will get cracking on... actually, you know, what I might do... So, in this edition that I'm reading from, which is, quote, The Collected Fiction of William Hope Hodgson, Volume 4, The Nightland and Other Perilous Romances, The Nightland takes up almost the entirety of it, and there's this little smidgen right at the end called Perilous Romances that has a couple short stories in it, including the captain of the onion boat, the smugglers, In the Waiting Gully, the girl with the gray eyes, kind, and gentle is she, and I want to say there might be one more, and A Timely Escape. And that's all over the course of, 50-something pages, 60 pages. So we might throw in just like 64? 64/65 pages, maybe. So I might just so I have like the book done, and I don't have to worry about revisiting it later to do just those short stories. I might just do those. That way you can know that William Hope Hodgson doesn't always write like this, and can write other things differently. I know at least one of them is kind of a, it feels very much like a, what's his name? Chandler. One of the classic godfathers of noir detective fiction. Weston Chandler? No. No. What's his name? It sounds kind of like one of those. You'll know it when we get there. A bit easier reading, also. So I'll probably do that afterwards and make that kind of the cool down palate cleanser of sorts before we get to what's it called? Endymion, which we'll be getting to after that. That should still be, provided my schedule turns out, that should still be by the start of the new year, which is kind of what I had set forth as a goal, is to get Endymion started before the new year ticked over. And I should be able to manage that. For Wednesdays, after we finish The Edge of Running Water, I figure we'll leap straight in to Cytine by C.J. Cherry. That's going to be a long one. That'll be in a couple weeks, but that should also be before the end of the year. For Mondays, I don't know how long we have left on Legend of the Galactic Heroes. Probably we'll get that wrapped up just before the end of the year as well, depending. Because that's probably at least 3 more streams, I'd guess, just eyeballing it. So we'll see. I'm probably going to have some pretty significant scheduling changes around the start of the new year. When I know what those are going to look like, I will tell people. If that all turns out to be for naught, sorry. Hopefully they won't. Hopefully they will all be for naught, but if they aren't, you have been thereby warned. It really does look like Pac-Man, don't it? And some weird winged anglerfish of some kind. Very, very cool, creepy imagery. I wish I knew who had done all the cover work. Some of them, I think, have in their file names the artist name. A lot of these are pulled, I should note, from... There's like an entire fan website dedicated to the Nightland, and a lot of these are pulled from that. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Not all of them, a few of them I found elsewhere, but the majority of them... No, that's not it. Where are you? No. I swear I have it here somewhere. Just gotta find it. Ah, here we go. Literally, nightland.website is the name. But they have a cover gallery and an image gallery. I should probably pull some of the ones from the image gallery, because some of these are appropriate, probably. Here, I'll post. There we go. I've slapped it in the chat. So you can check that out. There's a collection of Nightland stories and some other cool things. So it's pretty fun. So highly recommend you check them out. The Weird Fiction of William Hope Hodgson. Anyway, with that, I've got to run. Thanks to everyone who tuned in. Stay safe, stay sane. Be toasty or cool as per your geolocation permits or personal preferences. And I'll see you, and be decent to each other. And I'll see you all next time. So yeah, until Monday.